My name is Monwa Bisi. I will be your co-program director for today. Please feel welcome. Lovely having you here. We appreciate you coming through. Now I'd like to welcome everyone in the house to the UNISA Gauteng Regions Young Professionals Seminar 2023. Now, without wasting more time, I would like to call one of my colleagues, Ms. Dipale from the VAL, to officiate and officially open our workshop. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be here today as a student counselor from VAL, welcoming all of you in our UNISA Gauteng Region Young Professionals Seminar. I would like to welcome our students and our esteemed guest speakers who have taken their time to come to this seminar and share their knowledge and expertise with our students. The purpose of this seminar is to empower our students so that they can take control of their professional lives, as well as future professionals or professions of tomorrow. Students will be able to learn from success stories so that they can learn unique strategies which made our guest speakers successful. Out of those unique strategies, they will learn how to thrive and be successful, and to be better prepared for the place of work. Our students, through listening to our speakers, they will be able to have necessary skills, knowledge, attitudes, and values needed by the workplace. Our students will be able to serve better and be productive and fruitful wherever they are or wherever they will be. That is throughout this seminar. And lastly, to maintain commitment and a state of professionalism in their place of work. Let me leave you with this quote from John Wooden's quote. John Wooden, let me explain first. He was a famous basketball player and coach who'd always encourage his team to win and be successful. Then I quote, "Do the best you can wherever you are. No one can do more than you do." By so saying, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the seminar. Thank you. Over to you, Program Director.
Thank you, Medipale. Thank you very much, ma'am. That was our student counselor from the VAL Service Center. Now, without wasting more time, I would like to call Mrs. Hazel Makanya, who will be doing the introduction to our keynote speaker for today.
It gives me pleasure this morning to introduce our esteemed keynote speaker. He is Mr. Ronim Rautzi and has a corporate career spanning 17 years across a number of sectors, including consulting, public sector, manufacturing, retail, and investments. He's an accomplished professional with over 7 years of executive experience as a chief operations officer in the investment sector. He has developed a wide-ranging skills set over years in business leadership, operations, strategy development, execution, governance and compliance, corporate communications, human resources, budgeting and financial management, IT, facilities and property management, and corporate social responsibility. Ronnie also conducts training and coaching to SMEs on operations, HR, and governance-related matters. He also participates in various SME incubation programs to support the growth of SMEs. Ronnie speaks on various platforms and contributes to executive-level industry panels. Ladies and gentlemen, Ronnie is the winner of the 2015 Standard Bank Rising Star Award in the retail and manufacturing sector. He currently sits on the University of South Africa's Industrial and Organizational Psychology Advisory Board, made up of several industry representatives who contribute to the university's curriculum development. Ronnie is a member of the Institute of Directors in South Africa, IODSA. He has held several board positions previously, including being a non-executive director at Pick It Up, an entity of the city of Johannesburg, where he chaired the Social Ethics, HR, and Remuneration Committee. He currently holds the following board directorship: SMS Mining, Eva Electric, and Sakumnoto Property Holdings. His experiences include in terms of work includes the following. He's the Chief Operations Officer of Sakumnoto Group since 2015. He was a Group HR Manager at Massmart Group Holdings in 2013. As Senior Consulting Savals and Holdsworth, 2012 District HR Business Partner, South Africa, with breweries, South Africa, SAB Breweries. Deputy Director Talent Management at International Relations and Cooperations. He also worked for consulting as a consultant at PricewaterhouseCoopers, which was his first job. Besides his professional role, Ronnie is an independent South African gospel artist, an award-winning gospel artist. He writes his own music records and publishes his own material. And over and above that, talk about multitasking. He is also a radio show host with Kofifi FM. This is a music show called Rhythms of Praise. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Mr. Ronnie Marawi. Thank you.
And so thank you for the opportunity really to come back on this platform and to share some of the experiences and knowledge that one has gathered over the last 17 years or so. And so I would like to greet all of you that are on this call, together with the colleagues from UNISA, fellow panel members, and fellow alumni of one of the best institutions on the continent, long distance learning. And so thank you very much. I'm not only here as a panel member or a speaker, but I'm also here as a former student of the university. I completed my master's degree in industrial psych in 2015 under the supervision of Professor Melinda Gutsia. So I've got very, very fond memories of the institution and my time spent there. I did, in fact, my postgrad, all my postgrad with UNISA, my honors and my master's degree. And hopefully in the near future, the doctorate will also come along. But I just wanted to maybe give you a little bit of, before we go into the presentation for this morning, a bit about myself, because part of the brief that we received was that we should also let in the audience into who we are and how we have navigated some of the spaces in order to get to where we are today. And so I was born and bred in the dusty villages of Limpopo, Venda. I was raised by a single mom, 3 siblings, and sometimes people ask, are you really from a real village? And I say, yes, a real village with mountains, valleys, and at some point, lots of cows and goats, and we didn't have running water, so you had to go with a wheelbarrow to go fetch water from, the local municipality tap, which was a public tap. And so, if we're talking about struggle and starting from grassroots, I think I know very well all about that. And so, when you have to fend for such basic services as water or fresh water, I think you can understand that it's quite a challenging environment to grow up. But nonetheless, here we are, a few years later, and I managed to finish my matric in Limpopo, got into vets. I had some few distinctions, so I got a scholarship, which was great for my mom to enable me to study. And obviously, postgrad had to be my own my own endeavor at that time. And as soon as I got my undergrad degree, I had to go into work. And I'm fortunate that I got a proper and decent role at PwC, formerly known PricewaterhouseCoopers, as a junior consultant. And that's how my career starts and leads us to where we are today. So I thought today it might really be helpful if we just share a few things. And so part of my upbringing is that I am Christian, and I have got a very, very strong praying mother, and this is part of my DNA and my makeup. And so 1 Peter 4 verse 10 says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. And I think this is the foundation really of the way I've positioned my presentation, as well as how I've seen my life develop and grow to what it is today. And so on that basis, or with that reference, in the backdrop, the objectives really of my presentation today is just to provide some latest insights, trends, information regarding careers and career development, providing a framework for self-reflection and discovery, and hopefully triggering some curiosity around, some of the various economic, macro and micro trends that we see, and encourage, knowledge seeking and sharing, and hopefully provide some tools and tips for effective career planning and development. If we look at the global context, and I think this is important so that, as South Africans, we don't see ourselves in isolation, and that we see ourselves, as part of the bigger globe. And, and I'm glad that UNISA, being a global institution as it is, has got students all over the world, literally. And so I think that's become important for us to look at ourselves in that way. And so if we look at the 2022 Global Talent Competitiveness Index, there are a few insights we pick up from that report. And this is done by the World Economic Forum. And we see quite a lot of emphasis on the fourth industrial revolution, the role of human capital, innovation, resilience, and agility. And I think all of these, all of us can attest to them, especially the last 3 or so years, with COVID having had one of the biggest impacts on the economy around the world. And the two driving forces that we see since last year is that in terms of global competitiveness, COVID-19 still remains quite a central theme. And obviously the new macro theme around the Ukrainian war is quite prevalent because as a result of that war, we see quite a lot of changes in how various economies are structured, especially the emerging economies. And so globally, in inequality and poverty have increased as a result of that. We see that also in the rise in food prices because of the expensive fertilizer that we are needing to pay for, a rise in energy consumption and the use of fuel and all of those things. And so those themes are coming through, and they've got quite a significant impact on how we look at talent and its competitiveness globally. One of the other issues that are starting to come up quite strongly, it's around gender parity, and this is both in terms of roles that women occupy in influential positions in various sectors, as well as how they're compensated. We see a lot of diversity inclusion issues there, especially the inclusion of minor communities within the human population, and so all of this starting to form a serious impact on how talent is competitive, globally. AI or artificial intelligence still very, very prominent. Obviously not talking here about replacing humans with robots, but talking about the impact that artificial intelligence has on the way that we work, as well as how production takes place in the broader industrial sector. And so you will see that in developed economies, talent competitiveness is a lot higher than it is in the poor economies. And we find that the developing economies like ours, mid-income countries are suffering quite significantly from brain drain because a lot of our talent, although we train it here, fund it here, grow it here, eventually then our talent leaves, and first world countries then enjoy the benefit of all the work that we've put in over 15 to 20 years developing that particular individual. And so we find also that the talent performance, and income per capita remains quite strong, strongly and positively correlated, especially in the developed economies. And so what this means for us as people or professionals that are seeking employment or opportunities in the labor market is that there's a set of, adaptability skills that we need. And so as talent in the market, we need to be adaptive. So creativity, curiosity, enthusiasm, leadership, empathy, compassion, the ability to solve, complex problems, and seizing, opportunities from all around the world become important for us. And what does this mean in terms of human capital? This means that the capabilities and skills of individuals and populations are key drivers of economic prosperity and productivity. And we see this because good health has got a direct correlation with a sustained economy and economic growth and development, and how skills are in demand, in the market. And so having a healthy population would lead then into good prospects for prosperity and economic development throughout all the different markets. We also see that the Sustainable Development Goals, especially goals number 8 and 4, which talk to quality education around the world for all people and decent work and economic growth, become central themes, especially in talent competitiveness. And the final thing here to take note of is that one of the big entry levels or entry points into employment or economic opportunities is coming through local education systems. And so how those are structured and delivered becomes very, very important in ensuring that education systems are increasingly aligned with what is required in industry, and also that those opportunities in education provide international mobility. And so the talent competitiveness framework or landscape, looks at how we attract, grow, and retain talent across the various economies around the world. And in terms of attracting, looking at the role that investment into a country plays in providing opportunities for growth in the economy, as well as creating jobs, removing talent barriers of entry, especially for those underprivileged or previously disadvantaged individuals, so they also have equal opportunities into economic activity. How we grow our talent, traditionally linked to education, and so institutions like UNISA are very central and fundamental to that component. But growth is no longer just about education. So we look at various things, including apprenticeships, training and development, various learning or on-the-job learning experiences that can be provided in industry. And then when we're talking about retention of talent, we're looking at the sustainability and quality of life that individuals are able to achieve from leveraging their talent competitiveness, both at a personal level and at a national level. And then the last thing that's interesting is that there are quite some interesting immigration and immigration pull and push factors that we're starting to see. As I said in the beginning, because the first world countries or developed economies are a lot more talent competitive than some of the developing economies, what we find is that there's a big pull factor which is leading to our talent leaving the continent, going either to Europe or to North America, as well as Australia. And that obviously is not a good thing for our economies, because we need those skills to grow our economy and to grow the base from which that can create employment. And so all of these factors then lead to an important discussion around employability, which really talks to our ability or our the confidence we have in ourselves as professionals to retain and obtain employment should we get those opportunities. And so what trends do we see when employers look at the ease of finding skilled employees? You'll see that in the advanced economies, the ease of finding skilled employees is a lot higher because they're also tapping into the pool that we provide from the African continent. And you'll see that in the emerging economies, it's a lot more difficult finding skilled employees. But at some point, hopefully, these two graphs will then find a convergence point, and will be able then to equalize, that landscape. What are some of the reasons for the first world countries being more talent competitive than ourselves here on the continent? If you look there, Switzerland has always taken #1 on the competitiveness survey. And you can see there, so they are leaders across, all input and output pillars in the labor market. The only thing that they lack in is that, the transformation part in gender parity is quite still low, and the recognition of minorities in the economy is still quite low. Secondly, you see the USA there, obviously quite higher users of technology and investment in emerging technology, and so that's their big advantage there. Singapore, the East, we see them having a very high robot density, and so also very technologically driven market that is. Netherlands, very strong in terms of vocational and technical skills training, and Denmark, also a leader in talent retention. How does South Africa stack up with regards to its competitiveness in the global landscape? You will see that in the 2023 survey, we've scored around 38.77 points, which means we're ranking 77 out of 133 countries. And this measure would look at variables or pillars, including institutions, either educational institutions, financial institutions, all types of institutions, including legal structures within a country, infrastructure, ICT adoption, stability in terms of macroeconomic activity, health. We mentioned health previously, that it is linked directly to our productivity as a nation, skills, product market, the labor market, our financial systems, and obviously our market size and business dynamics. So how easy is it for a foreign business to establish itself here and to create more jobs, either through direct investments or through third parties? And so the big risk that we see here is that losing our educated, skilled workforce to economically and politically stable countries such as New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Europe is quite high. And so we need to make sure that we can, through our economic policies and the way that we do things in the country, improve all of these pillars here so that our competitiveness index can also improve. And so looking into how that then impacts, the workplace, what are some of the characteristics that we see in the 21st century world of work? Central to this is that we find the concept of employability, and we'll talk about it in a short while. But also we have to look at what type of graduate skills and attributes are required in order for professionals or even graduates to be successful in the workplace. What does the knowledge economy look like now than it did in the first industrial revolution? What's the impact of legislation? We all know. I heard the speech given by the chairman of Pick n Pay, Mr. Raymond Ackerman, and he was making some remarks around the impact that legislation, in particular the Employment Equity Act, is having, in the retail space. And so legislation becomes an important driver of economic activity and how, jobs are created and opportunities are created for young people. Understanding that the economy is volatile and that we've got quite a high unemployment rate as it speaks, and that of young people even higher. And so what is employability in comparison to what we'd call graduateness? And this was part of my studies at UNISA that I did for my master's dissertation. And so it's quite an interesting area to think about, because it talks really to how we ourselves prepare for the world of work and what kind of self-reflection we need to have in order for us to make sure that we are competitive in a very, very compressed economy where jobs are very, very few, and we need to stand out. And so employability talks to the extent to which, as an individual, I may obtain or retain employment by evaluating my own set of skills and abilities in relation to how I perceive an organization may respond to them. So essentially, it's talking to what do I believe I have to offer an organization or a job or a role in comparison to how they might see me. And so bridging the gap between those two concepts or those two constructs then determines your employability as an individual. You will hear a lot of people say, fake it until you make it. That essentially talks to the essence of what employability is. So the ability, the confidence you have in yourself, in your own abilities and your skills, and in evaluating what's available in the market and saying, even if I'm not qualified in that thing specifically, but I know I can do it if I'm given the opportunity to do so. And so employability is measured by indicators of skills gaps in the market and the labor market mismatches that are there, and by the adequacy of education systems. So it's important for us to reflect on what are we studying at university in order for us to be relevant in the labor market, and in order for us to provide a skill or a set of attributes that are in demand in the market. And this talks directly into what career development really is all about, because that combination of how employable you are with the right set of graduate skills and attributes will then contribute then to the career development discussion that you would need to have with yourself. And once you're in a role in an organization, how the organization then provides the right opportunities, platforms for you then to grow either sideways or to grow vertically up, and what kind of coaching, mentoring do you need in order for you to be successful in the world of work. Networks, very important, and they form part of your employability index as a professional. I think we will skip that so that we save on time. And so we see then that the nature of careers, is changing, or has changed quite significantly over the last few years. And there is a new psychological contract that employees normally go into the workplace with. At the moment, there are quite a number of young people that prefer, to do contractual work as opposed to full-time employment, as was traditionally the trend in the workplace. And so you see quite a lot of that, especially in the technology space, in marketing, communications, sales. You see a lot of young people preferring to do contractual work as opposed to getting into full-time employment and being bogged down by one particular employer. And so we see also that the way in which career development works and happens in the place of work has shifted from just being the traditional vertical from bottom, all the way to the top, but that sometimes individuals will have to do a number of lateral moves, gather enough of those, broad generic skills that are required for them to be successful before they actually make that move upwards, up the value chain in terms of the chain of command in an organization. And so how do we determine employability? As I indicated there, some of the following would be indicators of your own personal employability measure. So your confidence, the confidence to be retained during downsizing or retrenchments. We know that the economy currently is under pressure. Ourselves as an organization where I work, we've just retrenched, around 30 people. So, and we see that happening across all sectors. in the country, financial services, and interestingly, the sectors that were under pressure during COVID, like hospitality, aviation, are starting to kind of come out of that slump, and all the other sectors are kind of regressing. And so it's quite important then to say, okay, how confident am I in my own skills, in my ability, my contribution to my place of work, that in a downsizing or a retrenchment process, I've got a higher likelihood of being retained. How effective is my network in advancing my career goals? We know that networks are everything, whether in corporate or in any other sector. Networks are everything in terms of advancing. How aware am I of the internal and external job opportunities that are there within my field of expertise, also outside of my field of expertise? How transferable are my current skill sets into a new role inside and outside of my organization, such that it also influences my level of confidence in whether or not I can be retained or I can find a different opportunity outside of my current place of employment? What's my ability to acquire new skills to enhance my employability? And what level of respect do my peers think I command who do a similar job as me? And what kind of confidence, do I have that I can obtain a different or a new opportunity outside of my current employment situation? So this then leads to the discussion around then what are the skills of the future that, as we are having this conversation about, how employable we are and what kind of attributes we need to have as graduates or young professionals. The World Economic Forum released a future jobs report this year in April, and you will see that the core skills that are in demand in the future world of work, it's analytical skills. There you should already be thinking STEM subjects, so science, maths, technology, and all of those numerical skill sets. Creativity, critical thinking, so innovation is coming through there. Skills in the use and design of technology, so digital skills. And you'll see the job categories here that are demanding the most in terms of future jobs in the market. Roles in IT and digital communication, jobs related to sales, sales growth, sales and customer engagement. Interestingly, human resource and talent acquisition, but in particular in the IT-related recruitment, which then talks to the first point. And you'll see also the sustainability and environment consciousness and awareness. So people being aware really of their ESG commitments and requirements there. That I won't go into, but further skills and attributes as I draw to a close that graduates should be developing. It's around scholarship, problem solving, decision-making skills, enterprising, and analytical skills. So around that particular attribute there, we need graduates to be thinking about how they can contribute to creating employment, creating their own job in order for us to grow the pie, because currently the pie is what it is and it isn't growing, as we all know. Global moral citizenship, so presenting, applying information, interactive skills, ethical leadership, responsible behavior. So this talks again to that sustainability, ESG, and component. As much as we are being productive and industrializing, are we aware of the impact that we have on our environment? How sustainable is our future in terms of that? Then lifelong learning and continuous development are also some of those important skills. Now, I think from what we've discussed, then what do we learn, and what are some of the insights that we can pick up, from this conversation? Is that employability is an important driver of your own self-directed behaviors, which assist you as a young professional to secure and retain employment. Your graduateness with high levels of scholarship and lifelong learning attributes are predisposed to having higher employability. Graduates with higher levels of graduateness more likely to believe that they are sufficiently skilled to secure and retain employment. And that translates obviously then to a more adaptable graduate, which we need in the current volatile economy. Interestingly, what they found is that in terms of employability and graduateness, male students or male graduates tend to have a much higher self-perceived employability than female graduates. And I think this also talks to the inequality we see in various positions of leadership that we have, and their poor representation of females as well in those positions of influence. And of course, with age comes experience, and that also contributes to a much more substantial employability. One of the other things that we're learning is that from an academic or education point of view, institutions need to make sure that students come out of university with the skills that meet industry demands or demands that employers need, and so that we can produce work-ready graduates. At a tertiary level, we should not only be focusing on learning or teaching technical competencies that are specific to a specialized field, but also in ensuring that we inculcate a much broader scope of generic or transportable skills that can then contribute to a graduate's work readiness. So someone must be able to walk into a job and hit the ground running. We also see that graduate development programs are also focusing a lot more on developing critical graduate skills and attributes in order to increase the time to productivity after a graduate is employed. So as a young professional, if you're in your first job, second job, we should be able to, in 3 months' time, be able to see your contribution and your impact on the business that you are employed in. And so I think these then contribute to a graduate's scholarship, their readiness for the workplace, and a changing environment in the workplace. Program Director, I'm not sure how much more time I've got. You'll just indicate to me when my time is up, and then I will wrap up. I think I've got a few more slides, and then I'll be done.
Mr. Mlauzi, your time was up actually about 16 minutes ago. But
oh,
now
okay.
the issue is the information that you're delivering is quite important, and I personally feel like it's benefiting everyone in house. You understand? So I just don't have the heart to actually cut you off.
All right.
Yes, but
I'm so sorry about
obviously
that.
you can try to summarize and just try to wrap it up. Thank you, though.
Yes, definitely. So give me 5 minutes. I will wrap it up. And
okay.
By 10 to we should be done.
Thank you, sir.
That was the first part of my presentation. So I thought in the second part, as I draw to a close, we could look at some of the interesting career trends that we see in South Africa today. And these link very well to the conversation around employability, graduateness, and what we should be doing as graduates and young professionals to prepare ourselves for the world of work. We see again, software development, these are the skills that are in demand in South Africa. Software development, middle management roles, sales again, and we see those looking quite important, in terms of skills demand. Our hiring outlook in terms of the country, again, we see as, the IT skills top of mind, 69% of employers there having difficulty in filling those IT skills, software development, business architecture, systems analysis, etc. The candidate profile that we see quite significantly or a lot in the market is on average, and I'm glad about this because we can see that, females are very high, 73%. Most of them have got a tertiary qualification. Most reside in Gauteng, and as you can see, about 50% also willing to relocate. And interestingly, also about 88% are also employment equity candidates, which we see in the market as important. Another big macro factor that we're seeing is this thing around hybrid working. And so most people that are in the job market now very much willing to work remotely, and sometimes never even set foot into the head office of the company they work for. Most are working for international firms as a result of COVID. COVID taught us that people can actually work independently without being monitored every second of the day. Again, remote working, the roles in remote working that are quite prevalent that we see, admin, office support, business management, finance, IT, very, very high. sales as well, as you can see there. The top occupational sectors that are in demand: business management, information technology, finance, sales, admin office, and support. And as you can see there, jobs that most young people go for between the ages of 15 and 24 would be in that, admin office, support, finance, sales, business management, and IT. And so summing it up, this is my last slide, Program Director. I do apologize for the time. I believe that, you are a multidimensional human being. You're multi-skilled, you're multi-talented. And so the task that I think you have as an individual is to explore all your talents and all the aspects of what makes you who you are, so that you can have a portfolio of assets in your own personal capacity that you can monetize at any given point in time. As Mrs. Makanya said, I'm a professional. I've got the academic background as well. I'm a musician. I do broadcasting in my spare time, and so all of these things that I do are a portfolio of my own personal assets that I can activate and monetize at any time should one of them fall through the cracks. And so I think what's important in this conversation is for us to realize that we're not just one-dimensional beings that go to varsity, get a job, and then get a pension and we retire. And that there's a lot more to us that we can actually contribute with to the economy. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
As we continue with our program, our next presenter is one who will be diving on entrepreneurship. We have Ms. Tembinziane, who is the CEO and founder of Mutudi Services. Now, Ms. Nziane is a UNISA alumni who obtained her accounting sciences degree with the intention to be a chartered accountant. However, she is now a serial entrepreneur managing Mutudi Services. Mutudi Services is a medical company that supplies hospitals across South Africa and other businesses in other industries.
Thank you so much. So my name is Tembinziane, as introduced. I don't want to dwell much on what I have achieved as a person. All I'm going to share is that I am an entrepreneur. I studied my accounting sciences degree with UNISA with the intention of becoming a chartered accountant. And there was a whirlwind in my story and my journey, and I am where I'm meant to be, an entrepreneur. So without wasting any time, when they gave us the brief, they gave us the questions that everybody could anticipate, and we should try and answer them. So I said to myself, how I'm going to approach it is, what would I say to myself in hindsight? What do I know now that I think I should have known, or what could have benefited me about my journey that I could have known back then? So I was like, okay, that's going to be my approach. So the basis or the frame of my talk today will be the renewal of the mind, a paradigm shift, a perspective, which I feel is relevant for anybody who's going to be listening, who's going to be under the sound of my voice today. Whether you are a student, particularly if you're a struggling student, whether you just landed your first job, whether you're a graduate struggling with unemployment, whether you're a postgraduate student, whether you're in the working environment, or you're struggling with a toxic culture, or whether you're struggling personally. So I want to share the renewal of the mind, the paradigm shift, and how we go about that so that you may be able to have a fruitful life. What I'm going to start with today, what is going to frame, or the basis of the presentation, is going to be three things. It's going to be Romans 12, verse 2. It's going to be the definition of the paradigm shift, and it's going to be Albert Einstein's quote. So Romans 12, verse 2 reads as follows: "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Paradigm shift, the definition of it says it's a fundamental and significant change in the way a particular concept, perspective, or approach is understood, interpreted, or applied. And then Albert Einstein once said, we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking we used when we created them or when the problems were created at the time. So now that takes me to the purpose of this presentation, is to transform the way we think. To say that there is no way we can solve our current obstacles with the level of thinking that we are at when we perceive them, when we receive them, when they are created. So the main points of discussion is going to be the challenges that each and everyone goes through. It's going to be my perception of the world then. It's going to be the power of the experience that I had and the power of any experience that you have in your life and how to position yourself and the renewal of your mind process. So my approach to it is I'll be sharing examples of my story or other people's stories throughout as we are discussing these points so that it's relevant and makes it easy for you to adapt it to your life. So the challenges. As a student, for instance, I had financial constraints. I also come from humble beginnings, from a village in Bushbuckridge. Same thing as Ntate Roni Molaudze. We carried water. We had to walk miles, to go get water, to go get bread. We had to travel far to go to a mall. In fact, we only realized malls, I think, 5 years, 10 years ago. So these are challenges that are very close to my heart. I am well aware of them as a student, as a first entry job obtainer, as a graduate, as a business person. So whatever challenges you may be experiencing, as a student, we had safety and security issues. Those students who are in Gauteng, who live in Sunnyside, I lived in Sunnyside, the crime rates are so high. I was never a victim of it, but I've always had, unfortunately, experienced or witnessed it. And then there's also the mental health and well-being issue. There's people who are dealing with depression. There's people who are dealing with traumatic events in their lives. There's limited access to technology. There are those right now today who don't have, for instance, an access to a laptop. They had to use their phone, or there's network issues where they are. And then we are dealing with this macroeconomic level thing in the economy, which is an high unemployment rate in South Africa, in Africa altogether. There's student protests, there's unrest that affect our lives so much that, for instance, maybe sometimes we're not even able to go write an exam that is going to affect our time frames in terms of when we're going to finish our degree, which affects our finances, who gets to fund our studies, toxic working environment, peer pressure, we know is something that just happens to you. Find yourself in a space and you find today more than ever, peer pressure has created so much mental issues and well-being in young people because we do not have the tools to deal with peer pressure, because social media has made it so easy to be influenced, which affects us mentally, and we're not prepared for that. We're not half prepared for that, especially in the world we live in. Work-life balance, academic life balance, because what happens is, for instance, an example with me, I was a student actor. I was an active student. I was in student activism. I was part of EMSA, I was part of AXA. I co-founded Enactors at UNISA. I mean, I've traveled the world because of being a UNISA student, an active one. So trying then to manage 6 modules a semester and traveling to Turkey, traveling to China. So those were some of the challenges one had to deal with. How do I balance my life, relationships, work, family? So there's a lot that is happening for all of us. You could be going through a matter at work that is disturbing you. So how do we go through all of this? I mean, Dr. Ronimola also spoke about employability, the skills that you need to have as a person, as a graduate. There are certain characteristics that the workspace is looking for. There is certain characteristics that the world is looking for. How do we conquer that? How do we overcome? So now, with your challenges, I want to now challenge you to say, okay, I have these issues. I have these situations in my life. I feel alone. I want to tell you that you're not the only person that is going through exactly what you're going through. The only difference is that it's only unique to your circumstances, right? And this is part of what I want to do. I want to change your thinking, your level of thinking, and I want to give you the tools to go through that process. So what I'm trying to say is, when Romans 12 verse 2 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed, it means in the way we think about things, there is a process by which we need to go through. The reality is we cannot rise above our thinking. So what does that mean? It means that there is a way in which we need to approach everything in our lives. So there's a high unemployment rate, but the reality is there's still people who are being employed today. There's people that are going to interviews. There's people who are successful. Despite that, the world or South Africa is experiencing high unemployment rates. So why is that the case? What is the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people? What's the difference between successful graduates and unsuccessful graduates? The difference is how we approach our problems. I'm a serial entrepreneur, which means I have had to overcome so much. I've had to learn the art of problem solving, because the world I'm in, there are no structures. For whatever idea you have to literally come up with solutions for each and every obstacle. It's obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. So how do we move from one obstacle to the next, from one obstacle to the next, from one obstacle to the next, or even resolving multiple obstacles at the same time? Because your personal life doesn't stop because you're going to school, right? Problems are not a respecter of men. So how do we overcome all of these issues? How do you overcome the current obstacle that you have right now? So I want to discuss my perception of the world then, the limitations thereof, and what could be limiting you right now. So please bear with me, be open. Be open to receiving what I'm about to say to you. So I want you to use whatever issue that you have right now in your life, or whatever many issues you may have. So I'm going to share the limitation of my perspective of the world today, which is framed, for instance, by the idealism and optimism that anybody has directly from high school to university is, okay, I'm going to study in record time. After that, what I had in mind is I'm going to study my degree, which is 3 years in record time. I'm going to do my postgraduate, my CTA. I'm going to do my 3 years of articles. I'm going to write my board exams, and I'm going to become a chartered accountant. That's what I had in my mind. And I had it on lock. I know the process. I know what I'm supposed to do. This is it. I was limited in my thinking because of what I had been exposed to. What my mind had been exposed to at the time, right? We can only perceive things based on the exposure that we have as a person. That's the most important thing. So one may be career focused, maybe focused in terms of whatever it is in your life that is there that you say, okay, these are my goals, this is the vision, and this is how I'm going to overcome it. This is how I'm going to conquer it, or this is how I'm going to achieve it. But then life happens because it's life. It's unfair. it hits us with obstacles, with problems. You find that you don't now have enough funds to, I'm going to share an example, a student example. NSFAS stops funding you, which is very common for whatever reason. Macroeconomic, external things. You are deserving, you are passing, but they stop funding you. One of the students who doesn't get the funding for whatever reason, right? Now, there are two things that can happen here. There's a student who will drop out because
Ms. Nziane, I think your mic is muted.
oh my word, sorry. I just want to find out how long was my mic muted?
Just for a few seconds.
Okay, I thought it's the whole presentation. Okay, just for a few seconds. Okay, so sorry about that. Can you still see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just gonna quickly recap on what I said in terms of the perception of the world then. So yeah, my perception of the world then was limited. I had a process that I was going to follow. I was going to do my degree, I was going to do my postgrad, I was going to do my 3 years of articles, I'm gonna write my board exams, and then I'm going to become a chartered accountant. Boom, that's it. That's my plan. And it didn't happen that way. I'm speaking to you today as an entrepreneur, and I'm not a chartered accountant. So it's worlds apart. I would have never imagined that I would be where I am today, right? Rightfully so. I'm at the right place at the right time. But there are things I wish I would have done differently. There are pains or a certain level of pain and struggle I believe I shouldn't have gone through, but I did because of my limitedness in terms of my thinking, right? So I was showing an example as I was speaking about a student who NSFAS stops funding, a financial issue. So what happens is it could go, the solution to this or the reality of this matter is two ways. The one way is you drop out because NSFAS stopped funding you. And rightfully so, because they stopped funding you, because you don't think there's any other option, because that's what you're exposed to, level of thinking, right? But there is another way of going into this or approaching this. First is to go to career development. I mean, they've been there for years. I've known Mama Kanya since I was in my first year, for instance. That's many moons ago, right? They've dealt with so many students, so many systematic issues. I'm like, you can approach them and say, I have an issue. This is my problem. I didn't get funded. What are my options, right? They're so, like, you go find out what the issues are. But we are limited to whatever we are exposed to in terms of our minds. So that's where the level of thinking or perception and paradigm shift needs to happen. And a few slides further, I'm going to share how that goes about. So our level of thinking, we can only rise to the ceiling of the level of thinking that we are at right now, irrespective of what's happening. So my perception of the world then was so limited. There are so many things I could have done differently and could have been a different person. However, there was so much power, there's so much power in my experiences as a person. What I experienced as a UNISA student, what I experienced in my first working environment, my toxic working environment, what I experienced in my first failed business, for instance, has given me so much power. You cannot replace experience. This is why in the workspace, they'll tell you, no, we want somebody who has 3 years working experience, 5 years working experience. What they are saying to you is we need somebody who has wisdom, who has adaptability, who has emotional resilience, who has empathy and understanding, who has improved social skills, who has personal growth and self-awareness, who has appreciation of the present, and somebody who has the ability to guide others. Technically, that's what they're saying to you. When they say we want somebody with this particular set of skills, backed with those skills, is they want somebody who knows how to navigate through, somebody who's a problem solver. That's what the employer wants today. People, companies, as an employer myself, when you have to retrench people or let people go, you don't look at the years of experience. You don't look at their level of skill at a technical level. Do you know what you look at? You look at the ability, adaptability, and flexibility of solving problems. Personally, as a business person, I don't care what qualifications you have. If you cannot use them, if you cannot solve problems for me with that degree, with that honors, with that master's or PhD, I have no use for you. So what does that mean? It means that even as a student, you have the power to influence yourself, your environment, and the world. What do I mean by this? I mean, you have dropout graduates in the world being the most influential. You have the Mark Zuckerbergs of this world. What did Mark Zuckerberg do? He innovated. What is innovation? It's a level of thinking. It's a renewal of thinking. What happens in this world is there are so many problems. The difference between the successful and unsuccessful people is the renewal of the mind. It's the way they think. It's the exposure to which they have to the world. Perspectives change us. Perspectives change the environment we are in. Perspective changes the people we get to influence. So problem solving is an essential skill, set of skill you're going to need for whatever in your life. Whatever area of your life, personal, whether it's communication, when you're in relationships, the most important thing is communication. How you communicate can cause problems in your life or resolve problems. But what is the difference? You and I are communicating. We communicate to other people each and every day. The quality and fruitfulness of the relationships that we have in our lives, it lies in the way we think. Your perception of life will change your life forever. It will change how you approach life. So what I want to do is I want to transform the way you think so you can move from glory to glory, success to success in whatever you do, because we need to be balanced human beings. How do we become balanced human beings? Romans 12 verse 2. By not conforming to the way the world does things. Everyone who's successful, billionaires in the world, my favorite inspiring topic in life is following billionaires. Not because they have accumulated so much amount of wealth, but it's the art in which they approach problems. That's the difference. The value that you add is through that. So that's the power of experience. My experiences as a person, as a UNISA student, as a UNISA graduate, has helped me so much in shaping my life. And what goes to that is the level of thinking, how I was exposed to certain things. The renewal of the mind process. So I'm just going to quickly go through it and I'll be done. This is my second last slide. The last one just has a code, actually. So what does that process look like for each and every person? I have a problem right now. And I showed an example with the student who stops being funded by NSFAS. That is the obstacle. You don't have funding anymore. What do? Right? That's the obstacle. Recognition and analysis. What are your options? right? You analyze the situation. What does analyzing it mean? What does this mean for me? What does it mean for my degree? What does it mean for my postgraduate studies? Is it going to affect my career? How long is it going to affect it? You think about the effects and the impact. That will help you generate new ideas. What is the alternative? I cannot afford not to be employed by this time. Therefore, I have to make a plan. What are my options? What do I need to do to make sure that I'm done by this time? Where do I need to go speak to people who have the know-how? You are not the only person who's going through what you're going through. There's people who came before you. Remember that previous slide of the power of experience is that we're able to mentor and guide. I am here today presenting to you because I've overcome certain obstacles in life. And that's the reality. The results thereof change my perspective into becoming the person that I am. So that's the recognition analysis. Here is the problem. What are the solutions? And then you're going to be open to new ideas because you want alternatives. If option 1 doesn't work, option 2 should work, option 3, option 4. Instead of being emotional about it, you are now responsive about the situation that is at hand. And after that, you develop, like after being open to the new ideas, what normally happens, what seamlessly happens is that there's a development of new ideas. Okay, if this can happen, then this needs to happen. If this can happen, then this needs to happen. Because there is no limitation in terms of what you can do about a situation. There's hundreds of ways to solve any mathematical problem, which is applicable to any problem in your life, right? Depending on what you are exposed to, right? We cannot grow beyond what we think we are. Simple. And then the next thing is implementation of the ideas. If this one doesn't work, this one will work. If this one doesn't work, this one works. Because we've already developed it. We know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of them has to work. If it doesn't work, then I need to broaden my horizon. I need to expose myself to other things that can solve this problem, because this problem is what is the word? The word is, it can be figured. Whatever problem you're going through can be solved. You just don't have the resources, thinking capacity, stretch yourself mentally, what you're exposed to. It means that I do not have right now in my resources, in my mind, in my perspective, in my paradigm, I do not have the tools to resolve this or to implement this idea. And the last one is the results that are going to come from it. If the first one fails, you accept that result, you go to the next one. If the next one fails, you accept that result, you go to the next one. But what happens is when you accept the results, your perspective change. Even if it's a failed result, the reason why you benefit from failure is you accepted the result, it changes your perspective. Oh, this one didn't work, it means this one is going to work. If that one doesn't work, you know 1, 2, and 3 did not work. Therefore, 4 is going to work. And after 4 has worked, you know for sure through experience that 1, 2, and 3 didn't work because of 1, 2, 3. What is that? You just gained perspective. You gained perspective. So that is the essence of what I'm trying to say. Renewal of your mind is a process. It's how we approach life. It's the difference between successful and unsuccessful, irrespective of what you go through in your life. And I'm going to end with this. Genesis 1:28 says, and God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on this earth. God, the creator of this earth, intended for us to have dominion. I'm saying to you now, receive it in the same spirit that I'm sending it. You are meant to be powerful. You are meant to dominate the area of allotment. Whatever talent, gift you have, as Ntate Roni Molaudze started, that with whatever gift you have, serve, be a good steward to it. I'm tying it back to what he said. We are meant to have dominion over areas that we are entrusted with. Have dominion. Take dominion because it's given to you. You have the right to do so. The difference between us and animals is our thinking. Our thinking is what limits you in solving whatever issue that you are going through, because it is not unique to you. You're not the first person or even the last person to be going through it. I hope by this presentation, I was able to do exactly my assignment, to tell you and remind you whatever you are going through, hold it captive, dominate over it, change your level of thinking, expose yourself to much more, and you will conquer. It doesn't matter what you go through, you will conquer, because you are supposed to conquer. You're supposed to be dominant in your area. And as a graduate, as an employee, may that be an evidence of your life everywhere you walk, every day of your life, because that's the difference between successful and unsuccessful people. Thank you.
You know, that was a lovely presentation. I love the fact that you promote us having an open mind. You know, when you have an open mind, you actually can think on your feet. And now when you are able to think on your feet, you're able to solve problems. You know, you're able to solve problems. I'm a huge believer of you going to school. You acquire those skills, that knowledge to assist you in solving problems in the workplace. So thank you very, very much, ma'am. That was powerful and very informative. As we continue with our program, our next speaker, Miss Nolita Tiba, she'll be conquering against all odds. She'll be talking about a career in international relations.
So just to firstly, I think just to make a disclaimer, although it says under my agenda item that I do a career in international relations, the aim is, and I think as I go through my presentation, you'll understand why there's such a play on words with that specific agenda item. But just to introduce myself, so as mentioned, my name is Nolita Tiba, and I am currently a relationship manager with the First National Bank under FNB Fiduciary, specifically their philanthropy team. So when I got the brief, very similar to the two previous speakers who literally blew my mind and I learned so much, it was to just speak about my journey, how you overcome a lot to get to where you're at, and then how you continue to grow. I mean, as we know, no one continues growing, no one stops growing, no one stops evolving. And so that is hopefully the message I'll be able to convey through my presentation. And then I think the great thing about coming in third is everyone says all these amazing things before you, so you don't actually get to take on that burden. But the biggest thing I live by in life is I live by the concept of a brand. We are a brand. And I like to align it to this great quote from Maya Angelou. And it says, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. And essentially what that says is no one is a silo. In building your brand, in building who you are as a student and who you'll eventually be in your career path, there are a lot of people who've either made sacrifices to ensure that to get where you are, or there's a lot of people who are accompanying you, be mentors, your family, your friends, your lecturers, just your community as a whole. Those are people behind you, pushing you. So the essence of creating your brand is, when you're creating that brand, I always say, make sure it's a brand that won't embarrass those who've gotten you where you are, but also won't embarrass you in essentially who you are in the society we're building. So for me, my brand is, as I mentioned, I work for FNB, but before that, I had studied an undergrad in international relations and politics with a minor in history with WITS. And I finished that, and then I went to do my honors with UNISA in international politics. I did try and do my master's with UNISA for 3 years, and then I eventually dropped out because I realized what I was doing wasn't really linked to my brand. And I've been cultivating my brand since I was 16 years old. Since high school, I knew what I wanted to be. I knew I needed to work for the Department of Foreign Affairs, which is what it was at the time, because that was what my dad did. My father was a diplomat. He retired last year. I've grown up in that environment since I was a child. I've always been a child of a diplomat. I understand the world. I understand the global context. I've grown up in different countries. They've exposed me to a lot of what the world is. They've exposed me to a lot of cultures, societies, and the concept of keeping an open mind. And you don't actually even need that international exposure to get to that train of thought. As some of the speakers have said, it's your society that molds you. It's your experiences that mold you. It's the communities that mold you. And from that molding, you adapt to an open-mindedness. You're shaped differently. Your life choices shape you and guide you to who you are. So as I mentioned, I carefully made sure that by 16, I knew what I wanted to do. So I started preparing based on the subjects I wanted to take to make sure they helped me get to my end goal of DIRCO. So I made sure I took all the subjects that aligned to that, and also all the subjects that would help me get into the universities I wanted. So I got into the top 3 universities of South Africa, and then I had to pick the one that strongly spoke to my vision and what I wanted to do. And I think that's the biggest thing you can do as a student. Start molding yourself now. What is it that you need to do now that will help shape your CV or shape who you are, so that by the time you get to the workforce and the work environment, you have something that speaks to your character and that speaks to you and is already shaping you. And I like to say, especially when I speak to younger cousins of mine, when you are going into an interview, because this is the reality, when you put your CV and you're shortlisted, there are about 450 to 600 people who've applied for the same position you have. And I know that is a definite fact here at FNU, where 600 people will apply for the same role. From that 600, what in your CV speaks out to the person looking at your CV? What in that 600 says, this one CV is who we want to shortlist, this one CV is who we want to interview, and this one CV is who we want to hire in our company that will represent us. And it goes back to the whole essence of your brand. So as I mentioned, my school environment helped me get to where I am, but I was also about building my brand. The way you dress is your brand. The way you speak is your brand. Your social media presence is your brand. I like to tell people, funny enough, the last 2 jobs I had, I actually didn't apply. It was simply people knew me and asked if I joined. F&B found me on LinkedIn. They found me on my LinkedIn profile and asked me if I'd be interested in meeting and having an interview with them. And then when I was ready, I reached out, and fortunately the position was still open, and that's how I ended up at F&B. And it literally goes to, you have to cement who you are in your spaces and have a voice, and that must continuously speak to your brand. Sorry. So my UNISA experience obviously shaped me to be where I'm at. And for me, one of the greatest obstacles I think I had to come from transitioning from a traditional university like WITS into UNISA is initially there's that whole shock element. You are accountable for your own time. There are no classes that you need to be in by a certain time. And it shifts the whole concept of independence and personal growth. And the idea of independence is not, I'm free now, I can do whatever I want, but I'm independent, but I have to hold myself accountable. As I mentioned before, there are people who sacrificed to get me here. So I am accountable to those people, but I'm also accountable to myself and my future. UNISA definitely helps foster critical thinking, challenging beliefs, and defining the concepts of knowledge. And there is a great opportunity here where you're offered to engage with your lecturers. I engaged with lecturers within my field of study, but I got to meet other people outside of my field of study. So I got to learn a lot more about different fields, their concepts of thinking, their understandings of it. And that helps you shape. Someone spoke a really beautiful line about how you need to build communities, and you need to build, I don't want to say alliances, but so much build relationships that will help foster the person you'll become, because connections build you. Connections build you in school, but connections help shape you into your career path. So for example, when you start working, there's a lot of skills and tools you'll need that aren't always available to you. And then through the connections you built in your school path and your career path, you're able to tap into those. So I can still call friends who are accountants. I can call friends who are in the financial space, friends who are in the creative space. When I need something, those are resources I can go to. I mean, Google's easily available, but those are tangible resources you can go into. So really, this is the greatest time, and there's a great liberty about being a student. You're discovering your voice, and you're also aligning yourself to a community that thinks like you and that is aligned to what you want to achieve. But also, please, when I say a community that thinks like you, I don't mean a community that when you believe the sky is red, they also align to that train of thinking. But essentially what I mean is you have the objective to change the society you want to go into. You all have that train set of mind that you want to do better than you are now. And UNISA provides that foundation, and it provides that confidence and that skill that I'm speaking about. And it helps you strengthen your voice because you're going to need your voice, especially in the career place. The previous speaker spoke about a toxic work environment. The workplace definitely will challenge you, and it will make you question your stance on a lot of things, and will make you some element question your beliefs on a lot of things. But you need to be confident enough in your brand, in yourself, to stand your ground. It definitely brings a lot of element of respect when you go into a space knowing who I am, what I stand for, and what I will not tolerate, but also ethically what I want to achieve and the path I want to take to ensure that I leave my space, my environment, my society, my community better than I found it. The workforce, I like to believe there's absolutely no career path that's insignificant. One of the English words that I actually like to say I hate, and hate is such a strong word, is the word normal. There's no such thing as normal. That whole concept is subjective. So you cannot say, I want to be normal. There's no such thing. No one is normal. We're all different. We all bring something into this world that without it, the world just wouldn't be as great. So you need to know what is it that in choosing your career will serve your purpose to definitely leave the society. I like to say to leave the society better, because I believe that's why we choose the career paths we choose. That's why we're all in school trying to get an education, because it provides a sense of comfort. Yes, you get a job, you get money, but it's also to make the world better. And I know it sounds such a cliche, but it's simply to make the world better, leave our societies better, so that the generations that come after us can model after the way we've acted, so that we ensure things are getting better, especially in an African context, where when you compare us to the global structure, there's still so much we still need to do to catch up. But Africa has such great minds, and we have that I think that upside where we also have a young population that is brilliant and sees things differently. And we're coming with solutions that are very beneficial to Africa, and they speak to the African context. And we need to be able to retain those skills internally so that we can actually make the society better. You need to embrace unexpected opportunities. Your career path may take a surprising direction. As I mentioned, I studied international relations and politics. I wanted to get into DIRCO. My first job out of university was I ended up working for the Embassy of Japan. Was completely not aligned to DIRCO. I did actually interview for DIRCO, and I did get accepted at DIRCO, but I'd already accepted the Embassy of Japan job, and I think at that point I was still very aligned to, if I make a promise, I stick to my promise, and I still do. But I think sometimes in a career path, you need to make certain sacrifices. But I ended up working with the Embassy of Japan. And then after that, I went and worked for a social justice initiative, which exposed me to now my passion around ensuring equal access to education, but not only for girls, but concept of equal access to education for all children, the rights of immigrants and around conversations around refugees, the LGBTQI community, and just ensuring that everybody has a voice has become my passion. And now I am in corporate, something, as I mentioned, that purely happened by accident because they found me on DERCO. And I never thought that my career path would take me to where I am today. But I would like to then just say, echoing on the back of that, is you need to be open-minded in how you approach whatever steps you take from now. You might go into university thinking, okay, I definitely want to be an engineer, and you're studying to be an engineer. As someone said, the previous speaker, obstacles will happen. So if you opt to go and become an engineer and you think right out of university, you're going to get a job and become an engineer. I have cousins who opted for that. It didn't work out. They started their own businesses, which are thriving. But if that is not for you, and if out of the 600 people that apply for the job, you are not the one selected, what's then the alternative? And it speaks to being open-minded, venturing into the unknown and welcoming that an obstacle sometimes isn't a complete door closing, but rather is another opportunity that you had never fathomed. I mean, I never thought I'd end up in corporate. And I like to remind people that FNB's CEO actually is an engineer. He has an engineering background. A lot of the people we're finding in our IT teams have engineering backgrounds. So just start approaching everything with an open mind. The degree you hold, try not limit yourself to its title, because you never know exactly what it could lead you to. And if life doesn't take you in the direction you wanted it to go in, don't see that as failure. See it as just another opened opportunity. Because if I had thought that not getting into DERCO was a failure, then I really would not have accomplished as much as I've done thus far. Corporate has definitely taught me to resist conforming. And you can't conform, and you also have to stand your voice. I am not the picture of what corporate is. As I speak, I'm wearing sneakers and a hoodie. So the concept of when you go into a space, this is how people do it. This is the quote unquote normal. Don't do that. Don't conform. You have a voice. There is a reason your CV got picked out of the 600. Stay true to that voice. Cement your position in everything you do. What I wish I knew before entering the workplace. I definitely wish I had strengthened my CV well in school. Volunteering. I mean, I volunteered a lot in high school just because in my high school to graduate, it was a requirement that you have to have volunteered a certain number of hours. It was an American schooling system, so it was required that before you graduate your senior year, you have to have volunteered certain amount of hours from 9th grade to 12th grade. By the time I finished high school, that really melted away. But I really wish I had continued to do that in university, because it would have tightened my thinking and my understanding of the workplace and helped properly prepare me for the chaos and the pressures that come with the work environment. Definitely not being overly concerned about other people's opinions and focusing on your reality and growth. The previous speaker spoke strongly to the concept of social media, and I agree. The pressures that come with social media are things that I think my generation and generations before did not have to deal with. And this generation has a lot more stress and pressures on that, especially when your brand is constantly on a global context. So the opinions of others, try not have them mold as much in your reality, because it's still your story, it's still your reality, it's still your growth. You are the one shaping this story for yourself. So sometimes you need to block the outside noise, and outside noise doesn't always necessarily only come from social media. It comes from family, it comes from friends, it comes from society and your community sometimes telling you what you're doing is wrong, and them imposing their thoughts and their views on yours. And sometimes you need to actually take a step back and go, what is my brand? What do I want to achieve for myself? And is this extra noise going to help me achieve that? And if it's not, then sometimes you need to block it out, but respectfully so. And then just the idea that no experience is wasted or insignificant, no course, no study, no mentorship, no volunteering, no job is ever a wasted experience. You learn from everything. Being a waitress, working at McDonald's, those are skills that one day when you're in your career path and your workforce, you go, okay, that's what they taught me. They taught me to think on my toes. They taught me to think outside the box, because there's not always one solution to every problem. Advice I'd like to share, set boundaries for your personal space, both in your personal and your professional life. Success isn't always about money. Remain humble and compassionate. Once you make it into the workforce, money, yes, is a great factor and habit, but there's so much more that molds your reality. Embrace your unique learning style. Don't force yourself into mainstream expectations. I, for example, I know I'm more of a visual person. So if a person can speak and lecture all day long, unless I have a visual context, I'm not absorbing any information. So learn what that is for you. We're not all the same. There's no wrong or right way to it. It's just embrace what's unique to you. And then choose your subjects and degrees that are passion and problem solving in mind. Whatever you choose needs to be able to solve the issues we have in our country, or in your country, whatever the relevant statement is to you. Don't choose something for the simple basis of it sounds nice or you think it will have money, because as we've mentioned, this space will challenge you and you need a reason to get up every day and be able to go, okay, I'm still serving purpose. Thus, I still enjoy my work. And align your studies with special skills required in the South African job market. Greatly so, the first speaker spoke to all of this, so there's no reason to go into that. Learning from your journey. Embrace and learn from your mistakes. They shape and strengthen you. We all make mistakes. We continue to make mistakes. Learn from them. The issue is only if you don't learn from them and you continue to make the same mistakes, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, as someone has mentioned, when it comes down to firing people, should the issue ever come into a company, then you don't want to be on top of the list. The great thing about, I think, UNISA and any university generally is you get to be in a very diverse environment that forces you to be open-minded, and you appreciate different perspectives from your lecturers, different perspectives from your peers, and you get that helps prepare you from when you get into the workforce, because when you get into the workforce, there's a range of people who are coming from different backgrounds, different lifestyles, different trains of thinking, and just to conduct themselves so differently. And you don't want to clash, because the essence is you work for a company and you're here to just meet the requirements. So you need to be open-minded, understanding that the world is not black and white, and you need to embrace how complex it is and the different shades of gray in it. And that's what makes it so beautiful, though, the concept that we're all different and we will all bring different solutions to anything. But set boundaries. Yes, ma'am.
Apologies. I would just request you to start wrapping it up because we are pushed for time. Thank you. All right, thank you.
And then it's just to test boundaries, but respectfully so, and challenge worldviews and challenge everybody's worldviews. Conforming is dangerously what has put a lot of countries in issues where there's just been grave consequences. So if you look at the Holocaust or the Rwanda genocide or the genocides in Cambodia, it's people not challenging the status quo and just complying to everything. So I spoke to this, and yeah, that was it. So thank you so much for awarding me the time to speak to you all. Thank you for listening, and I really appreciate the platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have taken a turn in the program. I am not Mr. May. My name is Tashlyn Danepiece, and I am the co-host to today's event. So Ms. Yamikani Banda is an award-winning singer, songwriter, academic, and philanthropist. Officially having introduced herself in 2016, Lady Zamar, as socially known in this music space, is the music sensation who in the past 5 years has achieved more than most of her contemporaries. Having started singing at the age of 6 years, her musical inspirations run deep, with one of the biggest inspirations being Tracy Chapman. Her music knowledge is vast, having started off aspiring in rap under the stage name Afro J. Her introduction to mainstream music might have been through the release of a monumental collaborative album, Cotton Candy, with the producer DJ Junior Taurus. But fans began to put a face to the name as Lady Zamar began to create her own identity in 2016. Following her formal introduction into music, Cotton Candy, which spawned hits like Mamelodi, Pitori, and the title track, she went on to be awarded the Metro FM nomination for the Best Duo Album and the South African Music Awards nomination for Best Dance Album and Best Duo. The feature was considerable, seeing as this was only Lady Zamar's first year in music industry. However, it was in 2017 when the star finally introduced herself as a powerhouse through the release of her first solo project, King Zamar. The same year she signed to Universal Music Africa. The album was not only significant for the musician as her debut lead album, but it also changed the narrative of female house vocalists as it affirmed her as a pop artist. More than a pop artist, she was a hit maker. From 2017, she released an album and all her lead singles went #1. This includes the mega summer hit like Love is Blind, one of my favorites, Collide, My Baby, El Diago, It's You, Dreaming My Baby, and What You Need. She then closed off the year by winning the DSTV Mzansi Viewers' Choice Song of the Year Award for her collaborative single Charlotte with Prince KB. The album and its success managed to still have an impact into 2018 before she would emerge out of her cocoon with the 2019 sophomore album Monarch. Again, the 20-track album showcased Lady Zamar's penmanship as the singles again climbed to #1. This includes lead singles like Sharpshooter and Sunshine, which were released among lead singles and include Adore and More. During this time, Lady Zamar managed to amass a collaborative list, which is enviable, from summer anthem Charlotte, DJ Mshenga's Criminal, and Prince KB's single Don't Give Up featuring DJ Tira, all while still highlighting the talent from Pretoria through her features. Moreover, Monarch, which is her most recent body of work, marked the international imprint she was marking. From featuring American lead rapper Rhapsody on Freedom to continentally respected producer-rapper Simba Tags, music producing duo Noble Makes Song, consisting of Bubele Boy and David Balshaw. In the 4 years, the musician has affirmed herself as a certified hitmaker. Her last lead single, More and More, was released in 2020, a year which changed everything due to the pandemic. Not immune to the impact thereof, Lady Zamar would experience a health scare, which would require her to undergo vocal surgery and take time off. Upon her return, the musician focused on her philanthropic efforts and diversifying her brand. Currently, the hitmaker is working on her third studio album, which reflects the past years since her music break. Ms. Yamikani Lady Zamar Banda is a graduate of UNISA and holds a BA degree in Languages and Literature, a double major in Theory of Literature and English. She recently finished writing and published a children's book entitled Amara Goes to the Olympics. We welcome you. Welcome, Ms. Lady Zamar. Can I address you?
Yes.
Welcome, and the floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much. That was a very long introduction, and it was a reminder for me of all the things that I have achieved and have had so many people help me achieve. Just want to say good day to all of you young professionals and aspiring academics, and thank you so much for the invite. Mrs. Makanya, thank you. So, who am I? I think most of you guys know me in the public space, but very few people know me as a human being. And I say that because most of the time when people become quite famous, it's almost as though the human aspect disappears. Today I'll be tackling dynamic thinking and creative curiosity because for me, the thing that has set me apart is my thought process and how I have been able to apply my mind in my career. And I'm very, very curious about everything, but more so from a very creative side of things. I will start with a statement. Communication and arts are some of the best skills to have. About 60% of the world does not know how to effectively communicate, and this is the saddest reality that we face in the world today. There's so many bad things that have happened because of the fact that a lot of people do not either know how to comprehend or to communicate so that people can comprehend. I started off at Tunisia, obviously, and I literally started with engineering. I was studying like civil engineering, and then I got super depressed because most of my extracurricular activities really centered around music, writing, and various forms of art and artistic expression. And so, after a lot of thought, after a lot of encouragement from the guidance counselors at UNISA, I was then able to apply my mind and register for the BA in languages and literature. The community I lived in, the church I attend, and a lot of my friends discouraged me from that, and they literally said there was no merit to studying anything that had to do with the arts. My parents, who are not obviously Black parents, my one parent was very supportive, and my one parent disowned me. And these are things about my life that affected me greatly and deeply. But at the risk of that kind of family estrangement, I still believed firmly that I needed to study the arts. I was a singer at church and I was always writing. So it just made sense that I would choose the Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing, Languages and Literature, and I majored in the Theory of Literature and English. It is very important for students to have a dynamic and creative extracurricular life. It is important to explore different facets of your mind and not be stuck in just one way of thinking. Even if you're studying economics, even if you're studying mathematics, even if you're studying engineering, it is important for you, especially once you get to the first levels of tertiary, to explore your options. Firstly, so that you do not waste time and money, and secondly, so that even if you continue with the path of sciences or economics, you still have a vast range of experience which you can apply in the working world. Communication has helped me as a person, as a businesswoman, as a philanthropist, navigate the different careers that I've been able to develop. You have to always do what you enjoy the most. It used to feel like a cliche statement whenever people would say these things when I was growing up, but they're like, if you get a job in something that you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life. And that is the God honest truth. I wake up every morning so inspired, so happy to be able to exercise my writing skills and my producer skills that I've acquired over the years. I worked as a waitress when I first started studying at UNISA because I've always believed that it is important for a young person who has a little bit of autonomy, especially when they send you to varsity, whether it be in contact or distance, for you to develop the work skills that will allow you to interact with other people on a very human level. And that is what I did outside of what I was studying and all my other extracurricular activities. It is also very important to associate with the right type of people. I cannot stress enough that your environment will literally change your mind. If you spend time with people that will engage in behaviors within the school structure, within the learning institutions, that would divert you from focusing your mind on developing yourself as a human being, you will most likely fall into those paths and in those dangerous pockets of probability of doing the things that would ultimately deter your life. It is also very important while you are doing those things, which is safeguarding your future, to also be cognizant of the fact that you as a student should not be too hard on yourself, because ultimately the studying experience and the self-development period of your life should be a very enjoyable period of your life, because once you get to the working world, it's not fun all the time. It is important for you to have role models within your school structure, within your studying curriculum, within your friend groups that will allow you to not be distracted when you are faced with a dilemma of wanting to procrastinate or feeling the pressure of exams and all those other things that happen. In order for you to become a global citizen, in order for you to become a very useful member of your community, it is also very important to become moldable and adaptable. When I speak of moldability, I speak of the ability to adapt to different circumstances that you're faced with. Financial issues arise all the time as students. We know that not all of our parents can afford to give us the life that they might desire for us. And so it is very important for you as a student to develop the skill of moldability and adaptability. And how I was able to develop that is when I started studying um, my degree with so many subjects that entailed and required me to read different types of literature. I was able to almost travel to different worlds and become different people, and thus learning tolerance, thus allowing my mind to become very elastic, and thus allowing me to see different perspectives that has ultimately helped me become a really good songwriter. It is very important as well to never look at failure as what society and the community says it is. More often than not, we put ourselves under pressure within this, especially when we are coming from the high school into tertiary phases, just before we get to the working world, where we feel like if we have not achieved things the way our friends and our counterparts have achieved things, that means we are failing. Give yourself time to figure out how you can best develop yourself, develop the skills that you might need for the life that you want. Make the entire learning experience about you. I was not great at everything that I did. I think I failed world languages. It was so embarrassing. And it was more embarrassing because world languages is the one subject that I should have passed. Like, it's it was so engaging, it was so fun, and for a period I thought to myself, if I cannot master world languages, then what kind of artist will I be, what kind of writer will I be? But it was because of the people around me and the people that I was privileged to be surrounded by that I was able to see that there's no need for me to force to pass this particular subject when I can always replace it with a different one. And it is that mindset that has helped me continue in my path to becoming a businesswoman and becoming a successful artist. Whenever something doesn't work out, I do not see it as a stumbling block, but rather I dismiss it sometimes as an option and look for other alternatives. And I would like you guys, as you go out into the world, as you continue your studies, to look at it that way. You have to set goals that you believe in. It is nice and it's fantastical to be on some, yeah, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be this. But if you do not believe in those things, you are setting yourself up for failure. You have to find it within yourself to quiet the voices outside of you so that you can see yourself fully in the way that you truly desire to be seen by others. You are able to achieve anything that you want. There is nothing in this world that is limited, and there's nothing in this world that can limit you. I was never I mean, Miss Makanya knows I am a quiet person. I am shy as hell. I am an introvert. I am not the most loud person you'll find. But the day my first song went out in the public, everybody in my life, including people I had very close friendships with, were very surprised. And they're like, we didn't even know you could sing. And it is because I had learned within myself that if I believed I could do it, it didn't matter what other people thought I could and could not do. When I had gone for singing competitions when I was in high school, most of my peers laughed at me and they told me that I sound horrible when I sing because my voice is not some deep, bassy, bellowing voice. I have a really mellow voice. And it was not the type of voice that anyone would deem to have any kind of impact in the world. And yet, because I believed that I could do it and I believed that there was nothing that could stop me, I was able, through the help of divine grace, to find my path to the dreams that I had set for myself. There is no prescribed superstar, there's no prescribed musician, there's no prescribed artist. It is all the things that you desire, that if you see yourself that way, the world will see you in that way too. Do not allow your environment to limit you. I had my mom have a heart attack when I was in varsity. Like I said, my dad disowned me, but because I held on to my goals and I held on to my dreams, and I found an institution that allowed me to have the flexibility of adjusting my schedule so that I could study when I could, I was then able to build an entire career and finish varsity without the help of financial aid. I got it in different ways. I did not qualify for the aid, and unfortunately, it's a very sad thing sometimes where you don't qualify. But do not allow yourself to see that as a limitation, but rather, like I said, see everything as an opportunity to discard. And I'll add now, see everything as an opportunity where even if you fail at something, you know that this will be a stepping stone rather than an impediment. I will now read this quote by Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. It's all about the belief that you have. If you believe that you are able to use a knife for 17 different uses, it is more important than knowing that it is a knife. And this is what I think this quote means. I'd also like to quote William Bennett. He's the former U.S. Secretary of Education. The arts are an essential element of education, just like reading, writing, and arithmetic. Music, dance, painting, and theater are all keys that unlock profound human understanding and accomplishment. In my views, in the way that I have always operated, I find that the curiosity for art and the things that almost signal culture and refinement are tools that can help you achieve so much more than if you were just to limit your knowledge to your normal studies and your normal way of thinking. So when I got into the music space, it was a very overwhelming space because of my personality and my character. It was a space that I could not navigate. It's also a space full of egos. It's a space that is full of people who live and thrive off of fame, unfortunately. And for me, having learned the skills that I learned during my time at UNISA, I was able to understand that this was just simply another platform where I could learn, and that's exactly what I did. I learned as much as I could, and I learned and understand that I could become not just a singer and a writer, but I could become a producer, and that's what I've become. There is no limitation for anything that you want in this world, and I'd like to stress that no matter where you start, it is never about the way you start. It is always about where you want to end up. And if you can put your mind and focus your mind on the destination that you have, you are unstoppable and you will achieve anything. What the arts also do is create tolerance and understanding and a deep empathy and sympathy for the people in the world around you. With skills like that, you can easily develop a career in humanitarianism and philanthropy, where you then give back to the community around you, and you give back and you contribute and add value to the people around you. And in so doing, further hone your own skills so that you can navigate the fabric of life and the things that concern you and the things that the things that you are invested in, so that while you are becoming the greatest version of yourself, you're not stepping on anybody's toes unless it's absolutely necessary. It is also very important to develop the skill of humility, and the skill of humility is often found in the deep understanding of the people around you, the things around you, and the things that people value, which, in my opinion, my very, very limited opinion, is found in the arts and the interaction of the arts. When we learn to appreciate things that are unusual, we learn to not just appreciate them externally, but we also learn to appreciate them in ourselves, where we now see the specialness of who we are, and we stop comparing ourselves to other people. And the moment we stop comparing ourselves to other people, we stop expecting them to live up to the expectations that we might have developed of them, which had nothing to do with who they actually are. I'd also encourage all of you to become critical thinkers, where you do not allow yourselves to be drawn into propaganda, mass speculation, and issues that allow for clear thinking to become non existent. Critical thinkers are the leaders of the world. Critical thinkers are the billionaires and the millionaires. Critical thinkers are the wealthiest people in the world. I also encourage you to think of money in a very critical way. I say this to introduce me as a businesswoman. When I got into the entertainment space, I came into it with the desire to equip young Black people with the opportunity to work. Coming from a home where everything was a little bit of a struggle because my parents and I were not always together, I realized that if I could give and empower a few young Black people with money, I would have done the world a service. And so I sought out people like marketing managers, business portfolio managers, accountants, who helped me establish Ladies Amar Entertainment. Ladies Amar Entertainment has employed about 20 people at a time, and Ladies Amar Entertainment was able to pay for all their salaries up until the devastation of COVID-19, which obviously affected millions and billions of people. I was able to put people through school. I was able to contribute to their lives in a very significant way, and I was able to teach them the skills that I had developed and skills that I treasured through my contribution to society. I'm also a taxpayer, so I was able to learn about that. It sucks to pay taxes, but it's also a skill that you need to develop when you are in varsity, where whatever monies you get through any kind of organization, any organization you attach yourself to, you then learn to pay tax. It is very important for us as individuals to continue to want to empower each other through business development, entrepreneurship, and this is done through the development of your mind in the areas of critical thinking. I think I have come to the end of my presentation, and I'd like to close off. Just hold on for me, sorry. I'd like to close off with one more quote by Albert Einstein. Creativity is contagious. Pass it on. The people that created the airplane, they were engineers, they were people that dealt with mechanics of things, people that dealt with the whole air thing. I'm not really well versed in that stuff. But what I know is that for the airplane to have been the airplane, it was because somebody thought there must be a better way of traveling from one place to another, which does not mean our lives must stop right now. And even though Albert Einstein was one of the most genius people in the world, he was also one of the most creative. So I encourage you all to hone your creative skills, even if you will never participate in life of the arts, but arts themselves will participate in your life and make you better citizens of your homes, better members of your community, and make you a much more valuable member of your family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Banda. Your information, your teachings have just been invaluable to us. I would like to break the monotony of the program a little bit by engaging our students in a very interesting game. So there are very interesting prizes that we have here. Our answers will be audible answers, so I need to get these questions answered. The first person that shouts out their name, or not shout, we can speak, will then have to answer the question correctly. And yes, you win a prize. So the first question, what was Mr. Mulautsi's first formal job? What was Mr. Mulautsi's first formal job?
The first hand is Makopa. Take the next hand. Aboitumelo.
The answer to the question that you've asked, Mr. Mulaudzi, his first formal job was he was a consultant.
Do you have the company name for us?
Yes, it's Price Cooper House.
And the answer is correct. Can we get a round of applause? I'd like to introduce Mr. Sydney Peia. He's a professional with over a decade worth of experience in the automotive industry. He is a dealer sales analyst for Sub-Saharan Africa operations with the world's leading automotive producer, Volkswagen. His career has seen him work for some of the most recognized brands, including Unisa, Outsurance, Audi, Volkswagen, Jaguar, Land Rover. A Unisa alumni and ever the enthusiast willing to give anything a try, his on-campus activities included acting in the Unisa Theatre Group, filling various leadership roles with the student organizations, Economics and Management Science Student Association, and being a producer and host for a talk show on Unisa Radio. Sir, we welcome you. The floor is yours.
Everybody has spoken to you regarding what life is outside your studies. What's life like post your studies? Life is a journey, and as such, sometimes you just need to just take a step back, look over the whole journey that you've come through to where you're still going to actually determine how life is going to pan out. Because if you dwell too much into your present, you're never going to see where you eventually going to end up, and you might fall to short-sightedness and give up on whatever troubles that you have. So my talk will be regarding or relating to that in terms of the obstacles that one has to go through. All right. So who is Sydney? Sydney, thank you, Lady Ma, for the beautiful song, Mamelodi. I'm a Mamelodi-born person. Grew up in Mamelodi, went to one of the high schools there. And I'm the first of four in my family. And being the first of four, there's so many things that you have to do. Like your parents are basically on training wheels. So everything else that has to happen, you're going to be the one that takes the flak for most of the stuff. So they're still learning to be parents themselves. So you can imagine the immense pressure and weight that is put upon your shoulders being the first in the family, and everything from your education to your social upbringing, everything kind of takes in. So Sydney, as I said, is a Mamelodi-born person. I came through to study at Unisa, and with my studies at Unisa, I do have a BCom in management, but that was not my initial qualification that I had registered for with the institution. So just delving deeper into my presentation there. Qualification-wise, as I said, BCom management graduate, and as I said, in terms of coping with the distance in learning environment, the degree or qualification that I hold now was not always the intended one. Like Mr. Roni there, I wanted to be something in the field of accounting, but I soon discovered that things do not necessarily plan or go according to plan. As you were studying at high school, you're good in accounting, you're good in math, you're good in all of those things. But as you get to an open learning distance institution where you find out that you are the driving force for your success, things can take a turn to, not for the better or for the worse, but you just need to be adaptable. So I was forced to be adaptable. As I said, accounting was the first love that I had, but upon realizing that I would need more assistance that I could master at that time, I had to change tact. And changing tact was me having to change my qualification. I did, by the way, it's a dead stop type of story where you get to a point and you do not see something happening and you have to find a resolution to something else. So from accounting, I went to risk management. Risk management also did not work out for me. And eventually I came through to business management as the final qualification, because that's where I actually, having gone through all those processes that I've gone through, that's when I realized what my strong suit is. And that is planning, leading, organizing, and control, some of the fundamentals of doing business. So, and in all that time that I was studying for my qualification, I got to be involved in some student activism with the Economic and Management Sciences Student Association, with AMSA, with the height of my position ever being the regional secretary for the Tshwane region. So I've been with UNISA Theatre, something that I used to, we all have outlets that we need to cope with whatever environments that we find ourselves in. So for me, it tended to be acting. So I did acting with the fellow students on campus, both on and off campus, went to a couple of arts festivals, just as a way of creating that sort of extramural activity vibe that most of us are lacking in this sort of environment. So now, just that was not so brief intro into what I did at school. Now, as I said, I'm a bit pressed for time, but I do not want to deny you some of the benefits that I might have to share with you. So now, just jumping into the professional life. So, question to be asking yourself is, are you a backseat driver? There's a quote that I love very much that says, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. This is, of course, for any business student. You will know Sun Tzu, The Art of War. That is the premier book that you need to master when studying business management, because it talks about tact and how to change strategies amid anything that's evolving, how to be adaptable. So you need to be adaptable in order to get to where you need to know, where you need to go. So without having a strategy in place, you will never know where you are going. You're just blowing in the wind. You're a candle in the wind. So literally, you need to sit down as a student right now and think your plan through. And of course, for me, that came through from the Directorate for Counseling and Career Guidance from UNISA. So we had been interact with a lot. As I said, I was part of IMSA, and one of our mission was to educate the student and be of aid to our student. So we had various liaisons with the directorate in terms of how to best reach our students, how to best help them with their qualifications, or how to manage the work stresses or personal stresses that they may have with relation to their studies. So this is now where you go for the counseling sessions, and while you're there, they get to give you options, and you also get to determine whether this is the path that you should be following for yourself in terms of your career development. So starting your engines, this is now me just giving you a well-stop tour of how I got into the auto industry. So one of those people that I believe in this phrase, I saw it in one of motion pictures one time. It says, throw me to the wolves and I'll come back leading the pack. And that's what I'm at. That's what I am. Because you throw me into a situation, instead of drowning, I'm going to doggy paddle my way out of that situation. And that's one aspect of life that we all need to master. No matter the circumstances, whatever obstacles you encounter, you need to have that self-fulfilling prophecy of, I will make it through this. I'm way better than the situation that I find myself in. The circumstances that I'm in do not define who I am, and I can do way better than where I am right now. And better is still the way. So in starting your engines, I got the opportunity to be a well-rounded individual or student or potential employee. You need to have started. I like the fact that Lady Zamar did mention that she did waitressing in a whole lot of other stuff. And in doing that, this is now where you get to pick up other essential skills, like your people skills, how to relate better to people, how to diffuse tension, how to negotiate with people. So whatever job that you can master, even if it's just a weekend gig, that's what you do. So for me, it came in the form of, I was looking for a VAC work opportunity with Outsurance, and upon my first day on arrival, I was told that, you know what, you said you didn't want to be paid out in cash, you just wanted the experience. Remember, as I said, at some point I was studying risk management. So the counter offer was put on the table saying, you know what, instead of you coming to work every day to work for nothing, just for experience, we're gonna decide to pay you. And that came in handy in a sense that I was self-funding myself through varsity. And self-funding myself, that's all needed in cash injection became a lifeboat for me, because I was able to pay whatever outstanding fees that I had for the year and also pay for my next registration. And after that, that also became a pin in my career's development, because at a later stage, when I got the opportunity to go present to Jaguar Land Rover, where I did my graduate program, I was actually more in tune with what the industry is all about, having come from an insurance background. I'm able to talk to them at a level that the automotive industry is actually expecting a potential candidate to be. I knew what I was talking about. I was well versed in all the technical jargons because I'm a car fanatic at heart as well. So that did come to my aid. And I have since been moved from, then I moved from a graduate in the after sales department to then, of the 5 graduates that were hired for the program, I was one of 3 that were chosen to stay on permanently, and I got the promotion to be in product and pricing. I know I was thinking of putting up some slides of the products that I was doing, but copyright infringement laws did not permit me to do that. However, I can tell you it was a nice experience to be working for a global brand such as Jaguar Land Rover. It was so great that upon signing on, we were told, oh yeah, by the way, get your passports ready. In a month's time, you guys are going to be heading to our head office in the UK. And that was my first trip ever leaving South Africa at all, or the African continent at all. And that led me to believe that if I can do this now and get to interact with all the global graduates in one space and in territorial waters outside South Africa, there is no limit to what I can do. And hence now, just fast forwarding, my departure from that said company was on a somber note, where having great products, having all these access to these luxurious cars, expensive cars, you are given custodianship of a vehicle worth millions, literally millions. The car that I had, my first car, the retail value of that car was 1.4 million. It was a Jaguar XE Sport. It was a great, beautiful car. I love the sheen of the car, red, lessened, Firenze red color, beautiful. And as I said, as I moved on, I developed an even better quiet taste, and I went on to the Discovery Sport. Now, as I said, the cars do increase in value. So now going from a sedan, a sports sedan, to a SUV, that also proved to be quite the peg on my career, because now it does a whole lot for my esteem. I get a nice, beautiful car, 1.7 sticker price, and then I take it home for Easter. And once I get there, this is not the lesson. Whatever you work hard to achieve in life, people will not give it the same respect that you would want, or the one that you afford yourself for having attained certain things. So while at home, a brother, I can see people take cars for a spin. You say, wash the car and then they take it for a spin. So this is one of those classic cases where it ended badly. And in the event of this happening, my insurance only covered me and not any subsequent driver. And my brother was unlicensed. And that led to disciplinary issues for me, where I was summarily dismissed for having caused damages worth hundreds of thousands to the vehicle. And now, that said, this is now where changing lanes as a theme comes in. I have this phrase, or not a phrase, but this verse that I get from the Bible that's kept me going from the moment that I left high school. It's from Proverbs 3, verse 5 to 6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. Now, that has a whole lot of other meanings to people. For me, my interpretation is whatever is meant to be mine will be mine. God forbid anything should happen, but what he has designated for me, I will get to whatever destination it is, I will arrive at. No matter the obstacles in my path, I will walk through them as anybody would expect. It says, as I go through the shadow of the valley of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou walkest with me. So this is now where you need to have a mantra that works with you. Whatever that is the driving force for you, let that be the thing that ignites your passion to drive to get to your destination in life. So in changing lanes, this is now where I ended up now with my current employer, where I have now fulfilled a variety of roles. And I'm currently now being a sales analyst for VW Group South Africa in Sub-Saharan Africa. And in this role, I get to enjoy having to interact with people from variety of nations in Africa, learn of the different cultures, learn of the different, viewpoints, mindsets that people have with regard to life. And now, just talking of the industry and the key skills that are required. In the industry, essentially, what is required is discipline. Discipline and your knowledge. Like, it doesn't have to be a particular degree. We have people that are metallurgists. I don't know if I said the term right. We have geologists, people that are engineers, we have lawyers, we have everybody, every length and breadth of any qualification. Psychologists are also here as well. Remember, we are a manufacturing entity, so there is every element of business that's involved in this. So you need to have the discipline and the intellectual breadth to be doing what you need to be doing. You are trusted as a hired person to have some sort of discipline yourself, and also bring the knowledge that you have. And also creativity, being able to solve problems. Like right now, I'm gonna have to dive into another meeting where there's an issue that needs to be resolved. And that can only be done if you have that optimistic viewpoint on life, where you're going to be saying, okay, you know what, this situation is not going right in this manner. So what else can I do? Or have I thought of all angles in order to solve this problem? And most important for me personally, I put it third, as it's the middle that ties everything up: teamwork and communication skills. You can never be a person that's excelling if you do not have a way of communicating with people and working with people. You can have the authority granted to you by virtue of your office, but a true leader is one that actually leads from front and gets everybody to follow. So if you are a person that wants to get something done, do not be a person that talks down to your employees. In future, I'm talking to you future managers and employers. Do not talk down to your people. Always acknowledge their efforts. make sure that everybody knows that they are valued in your organization. And also the professionalism and leadership qualities that you need to have. You need to take leadership of your own as well as your team's efforts and successes. So the more you are tuned with your team, the more you guys will be able to drive a cohesive force towards a goal. And also, as I said, working for a multinational company, there's intercultural and ethical competencies that one has to abide by. What might be legal in one country might be illegal in another. So you just need to know when to traverse certain waters and when to call it quits. There's no point in you getting into something just because your country does something differently and now you want to impose your will. Hence, we are in a multinational corporation where we have to now study each and every country's laws so that we do not stay in the wrong. We need to be in the right with each and every one of our members. And just to wrap up, in being booked for service, basically furthering your studies is the best thing you could ever do for yourself. And if time allows, as soon as you complete your qualification, before everything else, I know we do not all have the luxury of saying, you know what, I want to study further. I can put off work, because I'm telling you, it's a whole lot that goes into, studying further once you have been okay, let's say once you have started work, because now you have work commitments that you have to live by, and family stresses and all these things to make things difficult. So my viewpoint and my advice to anyone is, if you have the affinity to study further, do so as soon as possible. And with that, I'm just going to end my my presentation as I depart for another meeting. I should be back for the Q&A, I think in roundabout in 15 minutes time, if the event is still ongoing. Apologies for the speed of pace with which I had to do this presentation, but duty calls. Thank you very much to everybody, the directorate as well as all the students that made time to attend this event.
Thank you so much. That was an incredible presentation. So with the strong finance background, Frank Mokwana has demonstrated a high degree of excellence in all the roles that he held during this time at Standard Bank. Within Standard Bank, he worked as a relationship manager for business banking and as a branch manager, as well as a customer service manager. Frank is also an entrepreneur. He's the founder and director of Management Solutions, a company that he established in 2012. Though at his company, he helped several businesses with services such as strategy development, risk management, audit services, as well as accounting services. Under his leadership, Management Solutions has played his part in implementing turnaround strategies that have elevated the businesses that he has worked with. They have also contributed a great deal to the success of startups that they've worked with. Management Solutions portfolio of clients include the following companies: EDS Mining, Platinum Risk Solutions, Lukumba Engineering, and Bohoro Royal Council. Management Solutions continues to grow, and they now have Basumi Construction Safety in its portfolio, a company that has grown in leaps and bounds. Frank Mokwana's contribution to the success of Management Solutions is immense, and under his visionary leadership, the company is looking at making its mark not only in South Africa, but at the continent at large. Frank Mokwana is a respected public speaker, corporate MC, and reputable finance coach. Mr. Mokwana, we welcome you. The floor is yours.
When I started my journey, of course, I came from a rural area in Limpopo and came to Pretoria with two things only. It was God and life. So I had no support whatsoever coming to Pretoria. So everything that happened in my life had to happen only by his plans and stuff like that. But the point I want to bring is I studied at UNISA myself, UNISA alumni. And the thing I want to talk about mostly, I will be just dealing with a few things that I had learned over the years, or 3 key things that I believe they will help all of us who are here, or they will help those who are aspiring to be able to build careers. I believe in any field, you would require to be disciplined, committed, and learn to be humble. And those are the personal things that I had to learn, things that I had to build up over the years, because when I started at UNISA, I frankly didn't know what I wanted to do. I left secondary schooling without knowing what I want to be, a security guard or a cop or anything. I just wanted money to pay bills. So, well, I got an opportunity to study at UNISA through NSFAS, and I started the first year, and I didn't even know which course to register. So I registered BCom Management, if I remember correctly. And they gave me the books. I didn't qualify, of course. I didn't get a bachelor during my matric. And what I did was, okay, first time what I did was, you go to school here, I got my books to study. And I'm filled with lots of anxieties, worries, and stuff like that. I'm not even prepared to do anything. All I thought was, if I'm registered, maybe I will have to put a minimal effort like I did at secondary. But then that's where I got it completely wrong, because first thing I did was to get my books, check on them, and conclude that it looks easy because I'd opened the first few pages of my books. And come my assignments, I wrote whatever that I could write, and I failed. And eventually I dropped out of varsity, and luckily I got a job with FNB first, and later moved to Standard Bank. Now, when I talk about the issue of discipline, commitment, and humbleness, I've realized that in the process of me building my career, those were the key things that I had to learn, because I lacked them immensely as I started. The fact that I went to university and didn't use any of the resources that the university offers while they were available, that showed that I didn't even have any sense of commitment within me to be able to say, okay, there is the university, there are quite many things at university, in particular UNISA, that were available. Like the last speaker was talking about some of the divisions that are there in UNISA, and I'm like, I didn't know there was even UNISA radio to start with. That's how ignorant I was. And then that caused me to drop out the first time around. Then I got to go to Standard Bank, be employed there, got being good. I started working as a teller, later became a team leader, and went on to become a manager. But all those things, they happened because I was they regarded me as a high potential person with a lack of discipline. And I would accept that is one thing I lacked, just discipline. I remember there was a program that they said, okay, go into the program that was for graduates. And I wasn't a graduate, I had a student number, and then I went back to school and I wasn't even passing any modules or writing the exams whatsoever. But on the work side of things, I did very well. But that can only take you to a certain extent. It doesn't really guarantee you that you'll be able to, you will grow until you reach a ceiling without your education. And I had beautiful excuses. I'm busy at work, I can't study, I'm a very busy person. But that was a sign of lack of discipline. I wasn't committed to my study. In fact, the very same thing I started with, that I say I needed money. So I wanted to be able to pay the bills. And of course, you can only pay the bills up to a certain extent. So I moved in, and over the years, I started learning. When I'm in the bank, they put me on the program. One program I was, they wanted us to develop, do a research on how to best use the Standard Bank group, because we had a division of Liberty that wasn't reporting to the branches, but the branches had to be placed at the branch. Then they are given us that task. I was in a group of graduates. I'm there. I'm not a graduate myself. We had to do a research. I went through and did the research myself, and my research won.
And that came back to my lack of discipline. Now I'm doing so much well on the other things, but I'm not even doing anything to on my studies. I'm not studying, I'm not doing anything to develop myself. And along the way, it dawned on me that I have to develop this certain kind of skills that will help me be able to sustain myself, because over the years you learn that skills, talent alone is not enough. And that is what I learned over the years when I was in the bank, that this is what my talent could get me. It could get me a promotion to this level, and I was a manager of a branch. The demands were not so crazy. All I had to build was just a system of working. Yes, I was working, but then I have created my own world of limitations, because every time they say, what are your qualifications? Then I have to show them a student number that, no, I'm a student studying a BCom degree, but I was not even doing anything to progress. And then one time they moved me in, actually, as time was going on in the bank, I was a performer, doing very well and very, I was just doing everything that was needed of me, even more. But here's the thing, when you can only do so much. At that level, what I knew was enough to sustain me without education. But as time went on, I went into business banking. And I sat down, and when I saw business people, I saw people who are so much like me, who had great ideas, but who haven't built proper structures around them to make sure that they achieve those goals that they have, or see those ideas come to life. And that's when I decided, okay, now I think this is the time where I need to be serious about certain things. So, and then I went back to register my BCom Financial Management, and it wasn't hectic, not because it's not a hectic course, but I developed a few things. Now that's when I started using the services that are available at UNISA. I went for the study skills course, because before I could go there, I would just be reading, maybe like I'm reading a newspaper. I had no study skills whatsoever. And because I was passing, I thought, no, maybe I don't need them. But at the university level, you need to decide, you need to know what kind of a learner are you, or the personality that you are, for you to be able to make a success of your studying. So what I did then, I went and learned, because before then I would go with people to, all night studying. We go to university and spend the whole night there, and I realized I haven't achieved anything, because I don't study the whole time. I'm a 15-minute guy and I want to sleep 1 hour, 15 minutes guy, I want to sleep 1 hour. Then I started checking on how can UNISA assist me in my struggles, because I had first, like I said, you need to then start acknowledging your limitation, to say, okay, all this that I've known, it looks like I've been lying to myself for quite some time. I had to change my approach. And I went back to UNISA. I went to the very same department that arranged this meeting. And I asked, they taught me how to study, how to prepare the notes and all those things. And I went back and studied. And what were other challenges that I came across was that along the journey, because I lacked discipline, as I was studying, I got myself into debts. And when I was working for the bank, you can imagine how ironic. I'm working for the bank, but I'm the most overly committed person financially. Why? Because you're in the bank, solutions are right there. That's why in one of the presentations I said to the people who are attending, I said, banks are not necessarily there to teach you how to manage your finances. They are a profit-driven business that its main focus is to make sure that they are profitable as a business. So they will give you that loan as long as it qualifies, they've done their risk management, and they believe you can pay them back. So I was overly committed in debt, and here I am, I'm sitting in a position where I have to talk to people about their financial business, strategy, and all these things that they are doing, how to avoid pitfalls and stuff like that. Then that's when I developed an interest of saying, okay, I think I'm a doctor who needs a doctor. I need to now focus on how to get better as a person holistically. And that's when I developed an interest of saying, how do I get myself out of debts? How do I make sure that what I am doing for other people also benefits me? And that's why now Tensa said, my talk will simply be my personal experience with commitment, discipline, and humbleness. Because all these things that I'm talking about, in the absence of these three things, you can have any form of a dream, write it down, do whatever you want. But if you're not committed, you will not see, that dream will not see a light of day. If you don't have discipline, you are going to ruin what you are building. Without humbleness, you will not be able to build proper relationships that will be able to sustain you in your chosen career. Because every other speaker that spoke here, you either have people as your clients, you've got managers, you've got study colleagues at work. Those are the things you need to learn, how to be a person who is relatable. And the only way to achieve that is that you are a humble person, unassuming, and a person who's always willing and ready to learn. So those are the things I realize. So I do lack these things. And first step to getting to a better place is accepting that, okay, as a student, these are the things I need to succeed. Yes, I've identified my goal. I want to be this person at the later stage in life, be able to afford life and be able to live life as best as I can. But in the absence of all this, I've missed an opportunity at first to realize that being a student at UNISA was a privilege. I was supposed to take it so serious and not let it go by. And first time I missed it. The second time, that's when I said, okay, now this time around, there were a certain group of changes that I had to make, and complete all of them, they were about me, making sure that I don't forget that these things that I'm doing, they are for me. If I'm ever going to be able to achieve anything in this life, there's no way I'm going to be able to achieve that without commitment, discipline, and humbleness. And in the process of discipline, I had to learn the following. When you become, once you get a goal and you become committed to it, you know that for it, you can, once you've identified it, you will need to implement the certain limitations for yourselves, which will be guided by discipline for you to be able to achieve those goals. And you need to also start learning that without a financial structure that would help me be able to achieve my goal, I'm not going to be able to achieve that goal. Let's say, for argument's sake, you've got NSFAS paying for your school fees. That's good. Maybe they're giving you a small allowance. But if you're going to take the allowance that they're giving you and spend it on anything other than that thing that is going to help you achieve your goal, you're guaranteed to fail. And I can tell you, if you don't guard against that, you may not actually be able to get a second chance. Like I said first, after getting a job in the bank, and I thought to myself, I think I've arrived. But that's a feeling that will only last for a short while until you realize that the amount of money that you are earning there would not necessarily give you the kind of life you are hoping for. Yes, for a while, it can make you believe that you are getting there. But after some time, when you start like in the process, I got married, have a family now, I've got more mouths to feed, I've got a wife, I've got kids, a house and a car to pay. Now, when those things come, you start to learn that I was supposed to have taken the building of my career serious. Hence, getting a job can work against you at times, because getting a job at first while you are still a student, you may decide, when you lack discipline like myself, no, I think I've arrived, and then we'll discover later that no, your arrival was actually a knock at the door. Probably they opened for you and left you at the waiting area. So those are the things I had to work on. And for me to work on these things, I will talk about the aspect of humbleness. If you're not humble enough, you will live with your assumptions and not ask relevant questions. Now, it will be so wrong of a student who believes that they know everything. Now, as that guy who would not be asking questions, And that is where we're getting it wrong. I see you've opened your camera. I think I've pushed there. Am I done? Okay, basically that's, I can't hear you, but let me assume you are telling me to finish, ne? Nod your head, I agree. So in closing, if you are going to be a successful student or a successful career person, you need the things I've spoken about: commitment, discipline, and humbleness. And these things will carry you through your studying and your working life. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mukwana, we say thank you very much for your valuable contribution. I would like to call upon our last but not least speaker, Ms. Rose Nkambinde. While she gets ready to come up, I'd like to read a little bit about Rose. So Rose Nkambinde has a story starting from her school days to today, where she's a businesswoman, market researcher, financial coach. She's invited to speak with various corporate organizations, charities, and students in education. Since 2002, she has successfully delivered market research in more than 10 countries. She has also been exposed to a variety of industry sectors, namely the public, social, FMCG, services, media, financial, engineering, health, etc., with several local and global organizations, including Ipsos, Coca-Cola Southern Africa, as well as East and Central Africa, GFK, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, ABI, Love Life, ESCOM, SABC News, SABC Radio, EBSA, Standard Bank, South African National Blood Service, Rand Water, Wits University, University of KZN, and University of Cape Town. On her speaking engagements, she specializes in hour-long formats where she will share on a prepared theme for 30 minutes and then open up for Q&A sessions. These sessions can run longer than 1.5 hours, guys. The transferable advice and insights shared from her talks always leaves a lasting impact with the participants. We are honored to have her. Miss Rose, you are welcome.
Thank you. Each of us have a unique journey. A path that's right for someone else won't necessarily be a path that's right for you. And that's okay. Your journey isn't right or wrong, or good or bad. It's just different. Your life isn't meant to look like anyone else's because you aren't like anyone else. I chose to give this talk the following title: I, Rose. Not only because I'm taking you on my journey, but also because that's exactly what happened. I, Rose. I am excited, thrilled, privileged even, to share with you the weird and wonderful parts of my own personal journey, but I'll focus on parts that are of my academic and career journey. Ladies and gentlemen, I, Rose Nkambinde, I'm the last of 3 kids to a stay-at-home mom, and my dad, the breadwinner, was a salesperson at one of the gas companies. My eldest sister is 8 years my senior, and my brother is just about 2 years older than me. When my brother was at school-going age, my mom decided it was a great idea to tag along with him. And that's how I started school at 4 years of age. School was a breeze because mom taught us how to read and write at home before we both started school. And we both were above average for the whole entire schooling years. At high school, we were both promoted. We both skipped grade 10 from grade 9 to 11. But when we were required to choose subjects, I remember going home to consult. Okay, I was talking about being required to choose subjects. We went home to consult, and we were told to follow my sister's footsteps. And that's how I did commercial subjects, as we call them, because that's what my sister did. That was my reason. At matric, we added one more subject, economics, to the 6 subjects that were generally done. And that was what my sister did. And that subject, economics, was not offered at school. And we unintendedly influenced others to do the same. So we all did, I mean, a lot of us did 7 subjects. And because it was not offered at school, I offered to teach the subject after school. We had regular classes, we finished the curriculum, and we all passed with A's, B's, and C's. I really enjoyed teaching the class, but at the time, I just used that as an opportunity to study as I was teaching others, and nothing more. I passed matric, and due to not having knowledge of what options were there, and there were not enough funds for a full-time university, well, again, I followed my sister's footsteps and right into correspondence study at UNISA. What a shift, what a shock. I was alone, there was no friends, there was no teachers, no physical classes, not much support. It was just the 3 of us, me, myself, and I, Rose. Studying alone was difficult. It was lonely. It required some level of discipline that I knew I did not have. I studied more diligently towards the assignment deadlines, and I studied diligently towards exams. That did not make my studying easier, and most of all, it affected my marks negatively, badly. I was confident, though, that I would do great in commercial subjects, just as I did in school, and that was not true. The first time I failed a subject was at university, and it happened a number of times. I'm not proud of that, but it's true. And due to lack of career guidance, I did not even know what to specialize in. I was doing BCom General, well, just like my sister did, and I did well in my first year of study. Remember, I went into school with my brother? I was still with my brother. But my brother dropped out of UNISA in the first year of study, after the first year of study, and pursued a college course in IT, which was really, really expensive. And I, Rose, was left alone to continue in this lonesome journey. At the end of the first year, I got my first job, which was at BG Stores. I'm giving away my age right now. And it was a holiday job, just for holidays. And was it not difficult? It was. It was really busy. However, I learned how to talk to people, how to work quickly, how to handle money as a cashier. I also decided to save all my money I earned. I went home because my dad was the only breadwinner and he was really struggling with the IT course that my brother was doing. And I told my dad not to worry anymore with my tuition. I used what I got from BG Stores to pay for my full year tuition. I sold my old textbooks to buy secondhand textbooks. Holidays ended, so did the job. Following year, I decided to join Peer Help, the Peer Help program, which is an initiative by UNISA Student Counseling Division, where students are trained to recognize when their peers have a problem, to listen to their fellow students confidentially, and to assist them with emotional, social, and academic struggles. What drove me to do this was I was just looking for some sense of community. I wanted some social value. And little did I know what I was getting myself into. The Peer Help program, it really immersed me into a world of lessons and challenges, friendships, opportunities, and much, much more. I am still to this day tapping into what I've learned from the program. Through the Peer Help program, its training, its experience, and most of all, the support from the mentors that we had there, I, Rose, gained a variety of valuable skills, such as the much needed career guidance. I now knew what I wanted to do. I gained study skills. I studied better than I did before. I got to know how to solve problems, manage my time, communicate, amongst others. I fostered good relations with my seniors who were my mentors, and I did my job or my work diligently, and I used every opportunity to learn from them. One of the key experiences when I was at the Peer Help program was when we were doing a career guidance drive, which was an outreach program where we went to high schools and we shared career guidance information to high schoolers. And I think it was the first debriefing session where we were really telling our experiences, and I asked, how is it that we are given, because we were just given content to just go and present at high school. And I was asking, why is it that, because I could see that some of us struggled, why is it that we were not taught how to present? And I remember my mentor saying, "Oh, that's a great idea. You train them." I am shy, by the way, so I went off there and I did my research, put together a training program, and I did that presentation training, which was later used to train other peer helpers and other students. Through career guidance, I finally followed a career in industrial psychology, focusing specifically in consumer psychology. And it was more about market research. That's what was really fascinating for me. I thought there was no market research in South Africa at the time because our textbooks were American. Only to find one day I met someone who had a small, medium business in market research, and I was so fascinated. I went to look at their offices, and they saw my passion, and they said, "If you want to work here, you feel free, come through." At the time, I was working as an assistant student counselor at UNISA, and I left that job, which was really well paying for a student at that time, to work for that market research company, which was paying peanuts. And in any case, I was offered an opportunity to be what they called a runner, which meant whatever they asked, I did. And there was the first meeting. It was called a status meeting. I didn't know what was that at that time, but it meant that people in that meeting would share the progress on their projects. And at that first meeting, I was given my first task, which was to analyze a transcript. I didn't know what that meant. And I did ask, what does that mean? And what I was told was that here's a transcript, which was a big, fat document. And I was given a highlighter and I was told, highlight all the words that relate to the objective of the study. And I was given the objective of the study, obviously. And there I was highlighting my life away for the whole week until the next status meeting. I wasn't done. And as people shared their progress, I shared mine too. Oh, yes, I did highlight the whole week. I highlighted from here until here. But I just couldn't help it. I asked again, why is it that I'm highlighting this document? Can you please clarify that? And the managing director explained to me that no, it was assisting the person who will be writing the report to find the relevant insights that are related to the study and so forth. And I said to the managing director, by the way, I think it makes sense for the person who will be writing the report for the person who's going to be writing the report to be the one who's doing the highlighting, because they will understand the insights better. And in a true deja vu fashion, the managing director looked at me and said, "Oh, great idea. You write the report." And there I was again, shocked. And I still did the best I could. I did my research and I wrote my report. It wasn't bad, I want to say. And I think so because that opened up a lot of opportunities for me. I was given more work, more responsibilities, and I was also given more projects to run. And soon I was running projects on my own. And I was also pulling the senior people at every opportunity to mentor me as I was doing that. And soon I was changing the whole face of the company because I was creating opportunities also for me to find efficient ways of doing whatever I was given to do. And within 2 years, I was managing the operations. I brought a team together and I set up a call center and I put processes and systems together for that team. I was sent to Cape Town to set up a new branch for that company and its own team and operations. Within 2 years, the branch was set up and running itself. And after a short stint as an operations director, our managing director had passed away and I was nominated and appointed as a managing director. I was 23. I learned a lot from that experience. A lot changed since the death of the managing director, and I was unhappy. And I resigned in 2 years after taking up that position. And I was thinking, there's no way that I'm not going to get another job. And only to find that it was just shortly before the 2008 economic recession. Did I not struggle to find another job? And to top it all off, I found out that I was pregnant after I'd resigned. And I tried to keep up with my lifestyle. I used credit cards to maintain my lifestyle, to pay my bills. And I did that because I really believed I was going to soon find another job. And soon I hit a brick wall and I moved back home. And by the time I gave birth, I was super broke. I had a C-section. 3 weeks later, in fact, within a week, I was back job hunting, and within 3 weeks, I found a job through begging. Really, I was begging because I said to the agency lady, look, I'm still looking for this lovely job that I want. Give me anything you have, even if it's part-time in the meantime. And within about 3 weeks after I gave birth, I remember I got a job at KPMG, and I was standing in for a PA who had resigned, and they were still trying to fill that position. I started that job at KPMG. I remember it was, it was around 3-4 weeks after I gave birth. And within 2 weeks, I was given an opportunity by KPMG. I was offered a full-time job as a proposal manager. And that opportunity was really just a breath of fresh air at that time. It was a great working environment, I must say, and I took that opportunity with both my hands. Again, I continuously looked for ways to work more efficiently. I remember changing the face of their proposals, and still there was a marketing department which was required to do that. I was given more responsibilities. I was responsible for best practice, proposals best practice, which was then emulated across the whole organization. But even though that was a great environment and all that, I was not happy. I was not happy because my baby was still a baby. I just thought I'd rather be at home. I had a frank conversation with the managing director at the time, and we parted ways amicably. And I was happier being unemployed at that time because I really wanted to be at home with my baby. My mindset had shifted about unemployment. Unfortunately, my son passed away in a few months. And I really struggled through that for a long time. But in a few months after that, I was offered a job. And I really, to this day, don't know where that came from. I think when I was really trying to find a job, sometimes these things take a long time before they come to fruition. And I got a job, and that was a job I was looking for. It was in market research. It was for a global company. I was a business manager on a global FMCG account with close to 30 brands in a global organization. We were doing mostly Africa work, including South Africa. And we would tap into various markets in the market research that we did. So it was a various types of market research as well. And I learned a global mindset because I was catapulted into a global environment. However, Rose, was the only young Black person in that level of management. And I said person because it was men, women, anybody Black was not at that level. Market research has been predominantly white. We know there are those industries like that where there's just predominantly white people in the management positions, and there it was. And the environment there was toxic. There was backstabbing, sabotage, and I was unhappy, and I resigned for my own wellness. I didn't want to work in an environment like that anymore. And I was thinking of my next step. While I was doing that, I tapped into my networks and I just contacted people I know in the industry, had tea and coffee with them. And I remember I had my famous line. It's famous to me. I said, if you need an extra pair of hands, please let me know. And I met the next person and said the same thing, and met the next person and so forth. It turned out that they did need an extra pair of hands. I was targeting specifically small, medium-sized Black-owned organizations because I just didn't want to deal with white people anymore because of my experience. And I got projects, and projects were coming. Yes, they were not a lot and all the time. It was a really inconsistent environment that I had never experienced at that time. I had to learn how to manage my money through that. That was one of the key lessons I've learned. I would get a project now and I would work for 3 months and only get paid at the end, or get another project, same goes. So I had to learn how to stretch my rand. In 2012 roundabout, I got bored with research. Research can be boring. I still respected it as something that gives me money, and that's what I know best. And I got a project that exposed me to the world of financial inclusion. It was specifically in the credit industry. And the results of that study was shared with the industry in a seminar that was called by the credit regulator. And that gave birth to a new line of opportunities for me. After presenting those results, a lot of people saw me as an expert, which I refuted with passion. No, I'm not an expert. I'm just a researcher. And I was offered various positions or various opportunities, like, oh, please advise us or something like that. I really didn't pay attention to those. 2 years later, a small, medium-sized company owned by Black people again offered me an opportunity to do training. And while I was bored with research and all of that, I thought I have enjoyed training and I pursued that. And it has really, I don't even have the words to express it. It has really put me in a space where I joined them and I gave input in financial literacy projects. That's what they had. And we've had the honor of training more than 150,000 employed South Africans in financial literacy. And since joining them, I then introduced support services because we would train people, get them to know concepts and understand how to manage their finances. But a lot of them needed support to be assisted individually to navigate through this whole financial decision-making thing called adulting. And then I introduced support services into the operations, and it then provided the one-on-one financial wellness support. This gave birth to a fully fledged financial wellness organization, which I lead now, and it is called Financial Journey. We are celebrating our 10th year anniversary in October this year, by the way. We've helped tens of thousands of South Africans to reach their financial goals, to clean up their credit profiles, solve their debt problems, get out of debt, tax profiles, get into houses, cars, to invest their money, draft their wills, and so forth. We've gained a great reputation over the years. We've been seen as experts by many organizations, and we even have a slot at one of the shows at Metro FM where we give expert financial wellness information. I still do market research work. I think I have pure luck and pleasure of doing what I love. Looking back, my adventure started at UNISA, really. This is where the foundation of my career was built. The key elements that made the career journey successful were active curiosity, willingness to ask questions, especially about efficiency and bringing new ideas into the space. I later learned that tactfully introducing innovation to an existing process can be done with skill, because sometimes we just talk and we offend people, but change is not an easy thing. So tact is really important in dealing with people. I learned process optimization was my happy place at work, and that has helped me to position myself as that in many operations that I've worked in. The skills I have that I continue to learn is still problem solving, decision making, analytical thinking, and most of all, I value and treasure the support I got from my mentors. And I have gone through the journey's process in various manners. All of them have a few things in common. It started with an adventure. I call it an adventure. In my various roles, meeting mentors, going through challenges, realizing victories and losses. And one of the biggest challenges in the work-life journey is to reach a work-life balance. I believe we are trying to meet our needs when we work and as we learn, and that balance can be extremely difficult to reach. One of the research findings I learned, I read somewhere, they were saying the later generations really value work-life balance, as they should, as we should. Work is an exchange, your time for their money. When you look for a job, your job is to find a job. When you run your own business, your time is still money. You may have qualifications, skills, and everything, experience, but if you don't show up at work, you will never get paid. The world of work is taking a new shape. as it is called, the fourth industrial revolution. It is real and it is here. In my organization, we've digitized about 80% of our processes. We keep a small team operationally, but also it has opened doors for others because we outsource quite a lot of what we do. So this presents a different world of work than what was traditionally known. While some jobs and skills are obsolete, others requires work to adapt the skills in existing jobs to keep up with the technological changes. And some jobs will require new skills. Now, as we go out there to the world of work, or the world of earning, as I call it, let us bring our curiosity, our eagerness to learn, our willingness to be the hero of our story through all the challenges, the victories, the losses, the lessons. Let us continue to grow in collaboration with others, mentoring others as we are mentored. I wish you a successful journey. The biggest lesson that I learned is that I am the hero of my story and my journey continues. And still, I, Rose, thank you for this platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Ms. Rose. I think we have had such an amount of inspiration from your life story and how it connects and impacts our lives. It is colored with different hues of experience. So for that, we thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much. I'm Monapula Slebo, and I'm a second-year policy studies student with UNISA. And thank you to UNISA for arranging such a informative and fruitful day. And thank you to all the presenters. I specifically have two questions to Mr. Diba Nolita. However, I saw that she went out. I don't know if she's back yet, but should I go on and ask?
You may go on and ask, and if she isn't here, can you please just type them in the chats?
Okay, no problem. So I understand. Okay, I heard that she has an international relations background, and I specifically wanted to find out from her what think tanks or foreign policy institutions that she might know that one might do some internship, or those institutions that specifically work with foreign policy that have entry-level jobs. And my second question was, I wanted to ask her really, since I'm intending after I graduate to pursue my postgraduate studies and actually specialize in foreign policy analysis, I wanted to ask her what really can I expect from this career, because I think there's a lot of traveling involved, and it's quite exciting and stimulating. Thank you.
Mine is a general question. I am Katlego Marema. I'm now studying my honors in organizational communications at UNISA. I graduated last year from my undergrad communication science. So I want to ask, it's a general question to all the speakers that have presented, especially because their presentation was so much personal that they got to encourage us and give us an insight of their journey. So I want to ask that what is their advice to somebody who's actually in the process of trying to find themselves, and especially with the current economy and the rate of unemployment? What is the advice that you can give someone who's in one foot in school and like the other trying to find internships, jobs, or something that has to be market related to their field of interest? Thank you.
Ms. Rose, could you please assist our student in her question?
Certainly. And I think it's a very relevant question that really affects us all. I think there's no one size fits all, and there's no clear answer, but we can take clues from our lessons and our experiences. And I've mentioned some of the key elements. There's a lot that has to do with the people that we surround ourselves with. One of the speakers talked about tapping into the resources that the university has, the student counseling and the student support. And that's where one gets to meet people that may, whether it's a intended conversation or it comes out of the other conversations or interactions, you expose yourself to people who might be able to plug you in, as we put it. I've also found in my experience that exposing myself, and I think also one of the speakers was talking about regretting not having done enough community work, that also exposes one to the world of opportunities. And also another point is solving problems. When one is always thinking about how to solve problems, find efficiencies, one might find themselves a problem that is related to what they want to do. And if they try and solve it, it could be a monetized type of opportunity. So those are the three main lessons that I can just pick from what I have talked about and the speakers at large. There was also talk of one may think they want to be X as part of their career path and only to find themselves elsewhere, still tapping into the skills they have learned, but in a different area altogether. So that also talks to what I've just said. I've alluded to the fact that when you solve problems, it might land you in a place where you are an entrepreneur or something else that you didn't expect. I think it's a mindset of looking for opportunities in a nutshell. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to thank UNISA for organizing this session. This was very informative. For most of us who do not have much experience, it was very helpful. I'd also like to thank all the presenters that made their presentations about their life. And I'm very grateful for the fact that for most of the challenges that they went through and their initial plans of what they wanted in life, they did not give up at the end of the day. They found themselves within the process and they actually grew and found something else that they love, and their careers are thriving to date. So yes, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much, Roniwa, for your comment. And on that note, I would like to welcome Dr. Pitswane to do the vote of thanks for us.
I am right here with you, Tesh. Thank you very much. I'm just showing my face, then I'll turn off my camera so that the participants and our honorable guest can see who I am, because we have been engaging with others telephonically, but we haven't met. Okay, now I'm switching off. Okay, this was quite an event and I'm actually lost of words. I am so appreciative, so thankful, and I don't even know where to start. And from what I am sitting, I think all the presenters who presented today, they were indeed relevant. They were, or they still are, the youth who really embraced education and were able to look at the changes that are happening in the world. And this, I'm tapping from the words of William Allen White, who says that the youth should be radical. Youth should demand change in the world. Youth should not accept old order if the world is to move on. And from their talks, from their epilogues, from their motivation, they really showed us that they did not sit and accept the old order of the day. They inspired us so well with their stories, how they have changed their careers from one another, from one to the other, and until they got what they wanted. And I do believe, to our student, that you have soaked yourself in the information shared, and you will be beacons of hope who will change the narrative of employment. You will be employers, of course, but not forgetting what some of the speakers indicated by employability. You need to know need to know yourself. You need to be humble. You need to have volunteered also in different spheres so that you exactly know what is expected as a person to be an employer. And of course, some will be employed. Not all of us will be employers, but we were encouraged to change this narrative and employ other people. And to our honorable guests here today, you really shared your journey and reflected what it takes for you to change your own circumstances. I do trust that going forward, our students will do exactly that. You really motivated us. Old as I am, I feel like I can turn the wheel back and be like you. The information that you have really shared has inspired me as an individual. And I believe from the chat that are coming, it shows that our students who are here, they are really motivated by your stories. It was as if we knew who you were really, because you are such a team who is very vibrant and who really touched the lives of our students with your motivations and stories. To our colleagues, thank you very much for having organized this event. It is so humbling to see how you really are doing your work and thinking of the life of students. I really thank you. I would have done an injustice not to thank one of our own, our colleague from the Directorate for Counseling and Career Development, which is our mother body. Us being from Gauteng region, we report to DCCD. Mrs. Makanya, thank you for your positive contribution, for your humility. You always never disappoint. You were able to get very good speakers who made a difference today during our presentations. We humbly thank you. Our technical team, I wouldn't mention you by name, but you always do not disappoint also. You did quite a good job. I am so thankful to you. Program directors, some were doing it for the first time, but they did so well. Mr. Mnabisi and Tesh, thank you so much for having directed this program so efficiently. And I hope going forward, you'll still do this honor and direct the online platform as you did. From me, thank you very much. And we really apologize to have taken such long, but we could not stop our presenters because the information that they were sharing was very vital. We couldn't have done that. On that note, I really appreciate each and everyone who came into today, and we will still have more workshops of this nature coming next week. For those who might be in the accounting field, on Thursday, the 27th, we will be having accounting specialists, companies, face-to-face, who will be sharing information with our students on internships and vacation works, things like that. So please make sure that you avail yourself in Sunnyside, or check the Facebook of UNISA, the LinkedIn of other people. They have posted this information so that you can also benefit. We are for you students, and we want to be sure that you are successful in your journey, as the speakers have indicated. Thank you very much. Have a good day.